Hello, and welcome to episode 127 of Flix and 6. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, Alessandro Bielsi. Say hello, Al.
Nice shirt, kid.
Yes. We have a lot to talk about on that.
That was a deep cut.
On this week's episode, I catch up on something near and dear to Al's heart, other random nuggets, just before diving into our Flick of the Week, End of Days. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
I'm excited about something near and dear to my heart. That could be cool. We're drinking Smutty Nose Brewing Company Single Digit Double. Now, let me just ask you, have you ever had a Smutty Nose beer?
I think so.
I feel like they're overall a pretty damn popular brewery. I've seen them a million times. I think I've maybe had one before now. I don't really recall. I'm assuming it was an IPA because I think they have a bunch of them. At least I associate IPA with them, so... anyway, this is a double. It's Belgian style double ale. It has some woman on the front of it, along with their trademark. I think it's a seal. Maybe it's a sea lion.
Sea lion? I don't know.
Anyway, there's an old car, and there's
what is she holding?
A woman. Is that egg?
Is that saltwater taffy?
Oh, maybe.
Wow, we went in two very different directions.
It's dark down here. It looked like a carton of eggs.
I think you're right. It's more likely that you're right.
This is clearly a picture taken from the 1950s. On the back it says, "Come visit our brewery and hayseed restaurant at Towel Farm in Hampton, New Hampshire." Hampton, New Hampshire. That could have been a problem. I could have tripped right over that. And visit us online. And visit us online at smuttynose.com for events, releases, and great merchandise in our East.
No.
As always, thanks for saying, make mine a smutty. They've been crafting fine beers in New Hampshire since 1994.
I think we're going to have to make a Flix and 6 field trip to this place. It looks really sweet.
I would really appreciate being able to go anywhere that isn't the current area where I am. Now, the funny thing is, unlike most people, I am out every single day for like many hours at a time. Yes, the mask is driving me insane. Yes, I wear it because, again, public constantly. It's funny because whereas so many people are trapped in their house and chafing to get out, I am waiting for the time that I can get back in. And in fact, I spend the entire weekend as close to inside as my house as possible. Sometimes, when it's not raining for a week, venturing outside my house to enjoy the 60-degree air. All that is to say, let's try this beer. Yeah,
and this place. I really want to go there. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool.
It looks like a beer fun factory.
Well, didn't friend of the show Jay do a trip up through New England and back down through New York?
I believe he did. I don't know if this was one of the stops. I would assume it was.
It definitely was in the range of where he was going. I don't know if he actually went there or not.
Sure. All right, let's give this one a go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Pretty good.
I don't like anything that I'm hearing, but the beer is...
I was doing that as obnoxiously as possible.
It is... There's a lot going on in my nose as this beer approaches my mouth.
It's weird.
Is it Tootsie Rolls? Is that what I'm getting?
I don't smell Tootsie Rolls. I smell caramel. I smell caramel malt.
I smell and taste Tootsie Rolls.
I smell caramel malt.
That's Tootsie Rolls.
No, Tootsie Rolls are chocolate.
Yeah, but it's got the smell.
Are you thinking Werther's?
Oh, Werther's. I'm thinking of the crappy Tootsie Roll, not the real one.
Are you 80 years old?
You want a butterscotch? It's not even a butterscotch. It's a caramel candy, I'm pretty sure.
100%. Actually, no, you know what?
About butter beer.
Ooh.
And I really just want to go back to Universal.
I was saying, no, Werther's definitely has to have butterscotch, too. There's no way they don't. They'd have the whole market cornered.
Yeah, but isn't it like not called that? Isn't it? I'm pretty sure it's like something like caramel candy.
What I'm saying is I think they have both.
Oh, okay. But I think we were led to believe that our grandparents had a butterscotch in their pocket, but I think what they actually had was a caramel.
Is that one of those things that like old people do where it's like, get me a Kleenex, but it's not Kleenex brand?
Oh, yeah, I don't like that. That bothers me. That's a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, there's really only off the top of my head one thing I can think of that I name by the brand, despite never being the brand, and that's Band-Aids.
Band-Aid.
Yeah. I don't say give me a Band-Aid.
No one's saying medical adhesive.
I don't say bandage. I say Band-Aid.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's fair.
I say
That's
tissue. I say refrigerator. Because it's a distinctly old person thing to call it a frigidaire, despite it not being a frigidaire.
I have never heard that.
I've heard old people say it once or twice.
Oh. Did you say you've hurdled people?
Yes, I have hurdled so many old people. I bet you didn't know that I moonlight as a track and field star.
Oh my god. Where? Yeah. What else? What else you got? Kleenex I've definitely heard.
Yeah.
Don't like that one. That one bothers me. Band-Aid doesn't bother me.
No, I think that's pretty standard at this point.
It's fine.
I know there's a bunch of other ones that like people do, and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know it's like a pretty common occurrence, and it does drive me nuts a little bit.
Jersey say Taylor ham when they mean pork roll.
That's a whole different thing. We don't want to piss off any Jersey listeners we have.
That's the whole thing. So, I mean, they're just wrong. It might be. It's a possibility. It also might be a Kleenex.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, sorry. Yes, I see what you mean. No, I was thinking of something else.
No, it might. I'm not saying that you might mistake Taylor ham for a Kleenex.
No, that's not what I meant either. Well, you live right in the middle of the war zone, right? Isn't right where you live kind of the dividing line for where people say it?
No, it's the whole state.
No, but isn't there a north-south thing going on as to who calls it pork roll and who calls it?
No, not really. People might be a little bit more angry about it.
I thought there was and I could have been wrong. Maybe it was east-west, but I thought there was some sort of geographical delineation.
No, not really. It's basically one of those weird things. It's like a weird Jersey thing where like I hadn't even heard of it until I moved here. Like, and the entire state seems to know about it. And he's just kind of holding it back from everybody else. It's
funny because I had definitely heard of it. I thought they were two separate things.
No, they're not.
Well, that's the thing. Is like I was aware that there was a pork roll, and I was aware that there was a Taylor ham. I thought they were two separate but similar things.
What bothers me about it is more so that like, yes, like I said, it could be Taylor ham, but it's probably not. And the reason why I say it's probably not is when you're slicing it off a log at a deli counter, you're getting that wholesale somewhere else. I mean, I worked at a restaurant. I know how this works.
Yeah.
It's not, it drives you crazy. George is getting upset.
Of all the things that pissed you off in this episode,
anyway,
I did not expect that.
If you had the box and you said that that's what you were having, I'd be like, fine.
Fuck you, but
that's
fine.
what we're having.
Like, yes, I can see into your bathroom, and that is clearly a box of Kleenex. But
right,
also,
but I would like a tissue.
I would like a tissue.
I think wet one's another one.
Yeah, but that one I'll allow because I've never actually seen another brand name other than Wet One. Also, because
that's true.
You know what? They asked for it though, because Kleenex, like, yeah, it's got clean, it's spelled wrong, it's got the word clean in it, right? Wet One is such a generic brand name.
It's actually marketing genius, is what it is.
It's like owning a car brand and like you call it the driving thing. You know what I mean? Like let's hop in the driving thing. Like Wet One is such a generic phrase.
It's more so if a new car company came out, cold car.
It's like let's hop in the car. Actually, it's a Mercury.
What is this show about? This beer is pretty good. That's where we were, right?
Oh, yeah. So
rating it back in.
Yeah, Butterscotch Werther's beer that we're drinking.
Tootsie Roll. Give me Tootsie Roll a little bit.
Sorry, we're playing weird broken telephone. No, I don't smell any Tootsie Roll. Caramel, maybe even toffee.
That's funny. Maybe mine's bad.
They were definitely from the same batch, so.
It's sweeter than I prefer my beer to be.
Yeah, but that's actually pretty common with doubles and triples, and that's going to be the case with the beer that I just made.
You didn't say whether or not you liked the beer.
Oh, no, it's solid.
Okay.
I like it. It's not my favorite example of this style, and I do like these Belgian-style beers. I made not exactly the same style, but something that's kind of similar. It's sitting about 30 feet away from me right now. Hopefully that'll be pretty good. That one's going to be sweet, I think. Would be my guess. I don't know if it'll be more or less sweet than this. It'll definitely be lighter. This is a very dark example of a double.
It would be really screwed up if like you also taste Tootsie Rolls, but that's what you're going for in yours, and you just wanted me to not get there, so that when we have yours, I could say it again, and you'd be like, "No, No, that's not what you're talking about.
No, I'm definitely not. And actually, I wanted to get away from some of those caramel things. I actually think I've done too many things with caramel malt where it was actually starting to bother me because I was noticing too much commonality between some of my beers. Where I felt like
I could see that.
I was afraid.
I'm currently getting tired of my caramel coffee. So, what do you give this beer?
I don't know. I'd give this part of a thumb.
Part of a thumb.
Yeah, maybe
a nubbin.
Maybe one thumb and a long fingernail. I don't know.
One thubbin.
Ew.
And I will give it a Zangief.
A what?
Zangief?
I don't know what that is.
In the Street Fighter movie, he does the sideways thumb.
You mean like Gladiator?
And yes, but it's really it's more adorable and less indecisive. It is meant to be positive, and then he learns that he's supposed to turn the thumb up by the end.
Oh, so it's like an aggressive, and like that's the end of it.
Exactly,
Not like a wavering. Exactly. It's going to be up. It's going to be down.
No, it's an aggressive horizontal thumb. But that's what I'm going to give this one.
That was a very 90s thing, wasn't it?
It was. That's got to be on the list, right? Like, that movie has to be on there. So let's get into some news and nuggets. Or some nuggets. I don't think there's any news. Is there news? Do you have a news?
I'm curious. How about some speculation on news? We got what? May 4th is sometime next week?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get some Star Wars news. Now, maybe it won't be anything earth-shattering, right? Maybe it'll just be
get something.
Some little nuggets about, hey, this is where we're at with the new this. Maybe we get a teaser trailer for Mandalorian Season 2.
I feel like that's a no-brainer.
Like a real one. Maybe we get an update on the Obi-Wan show and the Cassian Andor show. And, this, there was a big update a few weeks ago, right, about the whole the High Republic age, where they announced they were doing books and comic books and stuff like that. Because, eventually, if they're going to devote so much time and resource to all those, there was basically a trailer for them writing a bunch of books and comics. Something, either a video game, a movie, a show, something is going to be set in that age. Otherwise, they wouldn't be devoting
something big. We're gonna get some giant drop of information.
Like one writer writing one thing, or even one like couple of books, whatever, isn't going to like necessarily mean everything's going to be around that. But if they're going to unleash, 1,000 ships in our direction, on that age of time, like of the time period, there has to be multimedia stuff going on there.
100%.
So maybe we'll get a tease as to where that could be going.
You think we'll get it before what day is the 4th?
I don't know. Do you have a calendar?
I was wondering if it was going to be before our next episode or not.
You got a little paper desk calendar? It's not going to be before our next episode.
It is.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it is. It is Monday.
All right.
All right. Okay, cool. So we might actually have news next week. Holy shit, we're back.
Monday,
we're back, baby.
Monday's a big day. You got May the 4th. You got Cinco de Quattro. It's a great day.
I'm sorry?
Cinco de Quattro?
Is this a thing, though?
Do you not recall Cinco de Quattro from Arrested Development?
Oh, no, I don't remember.
They had this whole holiday that came up around them being pissed off by all of the Mexicans who were celebrating Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, right.
And so they created
how can I forget?
They created their own holiday that would occupy them so they couldn't celebrate Cinco de Mayo. It's incredibly racist. It was so fucked up.
That show was oh my god. So, well, you know what? Diving right into things that are near and dear to your heart.
I thought you were diving into things that were incredibly racist. It's like, wow, this show's a concern.
I am officially on the 2nd season of Scrubs.
Oh,
man, what a show! God, I love it so much. It's so good. It's so funny that this is something that I wasn't aware of or like super into when it was on. It would have been. It definitely probably would. It would have been like up there for me, like with friends and all that stuff, because I feel like even then it would have really like grabbed my attention. But it's a shame that I missed it then. I'm very happy to have all of it at my fingertips now.
Well, the problem was like, whether it be Friends or this, like they aired when we were too young.
Probably.
Well, meaning like when the show started, like you weren't gonna pick up Scrubs at 11 years old. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know. There's enough humor in there that you probably would have found it funny. Probably, honestly, just their motion and like the way they deliver jokes is funny.
Sure.
So like you would at that age, you'd find it silly.
Well, I guess my point would be like, because like for me, my only exposure to Scrubs and Seinfeld was because my parents watched it.
No, interesting.
So if my parents watched Scrubs, then I would have watched it, and then it would have become my show too. You know what I mean? Like that's how I started watching 24. My mom loved 24. Sure. I started watching it with her, and then it became my show too. You know what I mean? And Scrubs, the majority of its run, I remember my first actual exposure to Scrubs. I wasn't even aware of it really. My first exposure to it was like in middle school, like halfway through the run, or maybe even like I was like freshman in high school or something like that, where I would come home and it was syndicated on Comedy Central during the day, like the older seasons. So I would just throw it on occasionally because it was funny, because like I had a couple of friends who were like, oh, this is a good show. Like, you know, that's what you do when you're 14, 15 years old. You come home from school and you put on Comedy Central. You know, so I would watch a handful of episodes, but it was like 5 seasons in, so it's not something I would think to like start watching live.
Sure.
And I remember watching a couple episodes actually when it was ending, because that was later when I was in high school. And then like a year later, I noticed I found on my TV for whatever, you know what it was? Because it was around that time we changed over from Time Warner to DirecTV. And I had WGN, which is like a Chicago like based station, which like, you know, sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't, but it's very like Chicago centric, because that's where they air like the White Sox games, the Cubs games. And they used to syndicate that at night from like 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. or something like that. And like, I used to like flipping through the channels, like, you know, when it's like in the summer, you know, you're like, you know, it's like a Tuesday night, you're trying to go to sleep, you're just looking for something to watch. Like I had a TV in my room, and Scrubs is on, I'll like watch that. And I realized they were literally playing them in chronological order. Yeah. They'd play like 6 episodes on a Monday night, and then they'd play the next 6 episodes on a Tuesday night. So once I realized that, I set up my DVR to record every single one of them. And I watched through the whole show like that, maybe a year or two after it went on.
We used to have to work a lot harder for this.
So that's how I came to love it. You know, it was really in my wheelhouse when I was like 18, 19 years old.
I had something similar with Friends, where I watched like the last 2 or 3 seasons as they were airing, but the rest of it was through syndication and you know, the book of 4 or 5 DVDs.
Nice.
I believe
you definitely had a VHS, didn't you?
Definitely, yeah. I'm not sure if I had a VHS, but my cousin had lent me a couple of like the best ofs, which was just another weird thing that happened, where there was like the best of season 2, and it's like 8 of the best episodes, like 8 of the funniest, and it's just such a strange thing.
Well, that's such like a bygone age of TV, because like so many of those shows were like, well, not procedural, but like episodic, you know what I mean, where it's like you didn't necessarily have to watch the episode before. And Scrubs was kind of lived in the best of both those worlds, because they'd have like a season long arc, which I know that like those existed obviously with Friends and stuff like that, but it felt more central to what was going on an episode by episode basis. But like you could still watch, there was still a handful of episodes a season you could watch and have almost no knowledge of that. And then there was other episodes that would have totally derailed your knowledge of what was going on, because they were so story-centric.
The only time that's an issue is if there's a to be continued situation going on with those. Otherwise, so far from what I've seen, is like you could drop in at any point, except for maybe the 4 episodes that were like there were two consecutive ones.
It graduates from being the hybrid model in the first few seasons to, by the time you're into the 3rd and really into the 4th, where it almost swings all the way back on the pendulum to
interesting,
almost serialized. Like there's still random episodes where you don't have to know anything, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, it felt like the story really took hold, and I think that was like the writers' room realizing that they had so many more in-depth stories they wanted to tell. Because like, you know, like you said, there's still like times where, you know, maybe you'd be a little lost on. But if they give you an A and a B and a C storyline or whatever, right? You know, maybe you jump in and out of things and it's only the one storyline that's affecting it. I feel like you'd have an A and B storyline that tied together to the main story, and then a C storyline that was just fun for that episode.
Yeah.
You have, you know, relationship drama with these couple of people and work drama with these couple of people, and then the janitor and Turk and Ted and Todd are in an air band that gets banned by Dr. Kelso. And that only existed for that one episode, really, except for like a callback at one point much later on in the show.
There's already been like a decent number of callbacks, which I really appreciate. Like when they know the audience is paying attention and they write a joke in that doesn't matter if it doesn't land. It's not really for everybody. It's only for the people paying attention. And it's like, it's so quick that it doesn't take up any time, but it's very funny if you catch them.
So you said you finished 2 seasons, or you're in the second season?
No, we're starting the second season.
So what was the first episode of the second season?
No, we're starting it. Like, that's the one that we're...
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant like you like are like an episode or two in. Okay. Because I'm trying to remember that a lot of it blurs in my mind now because they're long seasons. And you almost
even... like 24 episodes.
Yeah, so they almost sometimes even start to break up into like 8-episode arcs or half-season arcs in your own mind, especially if you watch them in succession. But one of the season premieres, I think, unless it was the halfway premiere, it was either the premiere of season 2, the halfway of season 2, or the premiere of season 3. There's an episode where the first several minutes is Colin Hay playing his song Overkill over the whole like first few minutes of the episode. It's one of my favorite episodes because it picks up directly after the finale, like the aftermath of like the episode preceding it. Okay. And it feels really like a, hey, remember where we left off, and this is where we're at.
It feels like that'll probably be season 2's opening then, because, man, did that end with a bang. So, it was intense.
I think that's what it was. Season 1, it ends with all of them coming together, right? And then it all blows up.
And then getting shredded.
Yeah, so it is the next episode you're going to watch, I'm pretty sure. The episode's titled My Overkill.
Okay.
And it's Colin Hay. You know who Colin Hay is, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know the song?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's him playing. I think you'll really enjoy that opening if you know the song and you know him and everything. He actually shows up in that show a couple of different times. Like, he himself shows up in the show.
Okay.
There's another one where there's a random cutaway to JD thinking about someone giving birth, and he's in the room, the delivery room, and Colin Hay is birthed in full form, playing his guitar, singing I Come From the Land Down Under. It's incredible. It's in like season 6 or 7.
God. Oh man. No, but the show's got me hooked, where it could be so funny, and then they'll just like hit you with just like
they'll stab you right in the fucking heart.
Intense emotional storyline, or even like a one-liner that just leaves you going, oh man.
My favorite episode, my favorite episode of the whole run is actually one of the darkest episodes in the whole show. And it's like, if you think it was like, oh, someone dropped a hand grenade in the middle of the room and then just yelled, run, and then just watched what the chaos, like this puts that to shame. This makes that look like a single firecracker. It'll literally eviscerate you.
Oh man. And you know what already did that was
My Old Lady,
the Brendan Fraser episodes. Have you seen? Do you recall those?
Those were all in the first season.
Yeah, it was 2 of them in a row with him he has leukemia. They find out that he has leukemia, and then like in the process of them finding out, you see JD goes through all this trouble to like make everybody double check, make sure that it's right, and then that entire half of the episode was in his head, and like that really, I was like, oh, too heavy.
But then he gets better.
Yeah, that's true. He did, but it was like that. The way that played out though was like, it really, you get blindsided.
Yeah. It's
good.
Actually, that sets up for a great confrontation, too, when he goes to ask the doctor to check again.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, he's such he's going to, like, tear your fucking nuts off, like, all this sort of stuff. And he gets up in his face, and he's like...
Because you think I'm wrong, or because you want me to be?
Yeah, I kind of just want you to be. And he does it for him, like, that's like, awesome. Even that, like, tugs on your heartstrings, like, oh, God.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's too much. It's too much.
I don't remember what was making me think about it earlier today, too. But John C. McGinley needs to be added to our comedic actors who can do...
Sold. Put him on the list.
He's on our list. We need to write this list down one day, because our list is getting too long to remember everyone who's on it.
For sure. We'll do an episode of the people on that list. Oh, man. We'll write a draft synopsis of our dream movie with all of the. Did you see what happened there? It was too ambitious.
Oh, yeah.
And I kept knocking it down a little bit. Of a draft synopsis of our dream movie with all of them. Oh, man. And then we'll have to, like, I don't know, we'll make a game out of it. We'll have to cut 2 members of the list, and that's going to be a tough decision to make.
Oof.
Like, yeah, it's going to be rough.
But anyway, that cast is great. The writing is great, even for that sort of show. And the show grows up over time. Like, it's...
Yeah.
Even though, like, maybe there's a little bit of, like, fat that needs to be trimmed in later seasons, like, I don't think they ever really got tired. You know what I mean? Like, it's just... There was just so much... They constantly tried to raise the stakes. Sure. And I appreciated that. But because it never gets...
It's tough, though.
It never gets super cheesy, though. Like, they never have an actual jumping the shark moment. You know what I mean? Like, it still feels grounded in what made it what it was. And it's these real people who have strengths and weaknesses. And largely, over the course of it, you know, they get to a point where they're strong enough to overcome them. And part of getting strong enough to overcome them is them all growing up. Even the ones of them who are older need to grow up some. Sure. And them learning to let the right people in to trust to help get through it together. It's a delightful show.
Yeah, I do have to we have to pause for a moment to talk about the janitor, who is just a tremendous human being. And first off, the way that they did this whole cyclical thing where, like, at the start of the season with JD encountering him for the first time and then the new intern encountering him at the very end with the same thing was perfect. The one episode, though, in the past few that really got me, I was hysterical before it even happened, was the janitor is saying things to JD, deep personal things about his life, and JD is like, how do you know that? Like, it started off with, okay, you have the key, you got my personal file, and you know, like, where I live and who my parents are, and then he says, like, something about him, I don't know, like, his first kiss with so-and-so, and I wonder if she still thinks about it. She doesn't. And he goes, how did you know that? And he like speeds up and walks away. And at the very end of the episode, and this is where they should have left it, at the very end of the episode, he's writing in his journal, and I went, oh my god, that's amazing. They didn't even have to show it. They show the janitor then go to the locker and open it up to read his journal. But if they didn't show it, that would have been enough like to piece that together. Oh man, he's got. Oh, there was another one that really again, the show's has had me in stitches a few times, and one is the janitor is so blunt, even when he's being sincere, that it seems like he's being sarcastic and like defensive, and, like, you know, with his defense mechanism. And this one came down to the janitor telling JD that he's sorry, and he's like, do you want to get? So JD like asks him like if he wants to get a beer after work, and he goes, oh, maybe we should go to a baseball game together, and we could share a popcorn. And he goes, all right, geez. And he walks away, and he goes, and the janitor pulls out the 2 tickets from his pocket.
The thing is, there are so many times where he does that, and that's probably the only one that's truly sincere. I think there's a lot of times because JD doesn't see the tickets, right? The audience.
No, he doesn't see them. Yeah,
only the audience sees the tickets. But there's other times later on where the janitor does the same setup, and you're expecting the same thing. Like, oh man, this is just misconnections, and you realize he has come into the scenario with that thing held hostage, so that he can hit JD over the head with it at the end. Like, you know what I mean? Where
sure.
Like. It won't be him showing the audience the tickets. The next time it'll be to show JD the tickets. You know?
Oh man, he's just a great character, though. It's so funny. I love it. I really love it. That's a show I can't wait to go back and put on. And then, like, you put it on, and then you're halfway through a season.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone could not love this show. I mean, it may not be your favorite show. Like, there may be shows that you prefer over it, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but how you could do anything less than enjoy the show, I don't understand.
Right.
It literally has something for everyone. It's got a great cast. They all get some time in the limelight. Even though JD is the main character, it becomes truly an ensemble between him and Elliot and Turk and Carla and Dr. Cox and even the janitor and Jordan and Kelso. Like, they all become kind of maybe in the second tier, but like they all get their own storylines. Mm-hmm. There's a storyline about Dr. Kelso maybe being too old and needing to move on, maybe being forced to move on. You know what I mean? Like, and they spend time with that.
That's cool. That's cool. Does the Todd still just remain?
Oh, he's the worst. He's the worst from start
okay,
to finish.
good.
I mean, he's the worst in the best possible way. But yes, no, he's always a second.
Oh my god, the episode where we find out that the Todd, just the douchiest of human beings, is the best surgeon.
Yes,
is awesome.
And even I think Dr. Wen even basically says what makes him the worst is also what makes him the best.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. He's like, he's something about him living in the moment, and then I don't know, Turk is thinking 12 steps ahead, and he's in his head, and he's saying things about, like, how he's preparing for the surgery they're about to do, and they quick cut to Todd, and he goes, shiny scalpel in my hand.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem early on that they might queue up Todd to become one of the main ensemble, and he's not. He's in the show from start to finish, but he's never more
No, I don't think he should be. That's why I was hoping that he stays in his wheelhouse.
Yes.
Really is where I want.
No, they deploy him in just the right amount. Even the janitor gets storylines later on in the show. Like, he gets his own arcs. Ted gets his own arcs. Like,
nice. Oh man, it's a great show. I'm excited to get back to it. We have paused on The Sopranos for a few days while we watch that.
Okay.
And it is really just the most wonderful palate cleanser, because I think I was just down and angry a lot, and it was because of that show.
Well, it's an angry show about angry people, so if you didn't feel a little angry while watching it, then I think that you might be doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So that's totally normal. It's probably the type of thing, right, where watch a Soprano, watch two Scrubs, watch a Soprano, watch two Scrubs.
Yeah.
Like,
it's gotten to the point where, like, I actively root for people to die in the show, and, like, want it to be hard to watch. You know, like, I want to.
Oh yeah. Well, especially like some of the people who get posed as like antagonists. Like,
sure.
Where are you at? About you in like the third season?
No, we're in the middle of the fourth, I think.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like, if you're not actively rooting for Richie Aprile to get killed, like, you're doing something wrong. Like, if you're not
right,
if you're not rooting for Ralph Cifaretto to get killed, like, you're doing something wrong. Like,
right. When as much as I'm rooting for Tony's sister to get killed above most people in the show.
So annoying.
But when Richie punches her in the face, I was like, "Is this going to be the scene?" And then it was, and I was so happy about it.
Yeah, you know what? That was one of the great miscalculations of all time, right? Because, like, sure, like, you think you're a tough guy and no one's going to go against you or whatever, but you have to realize what brand of crazy she is. Mm-hmm. Like that's not going to fly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even goes so far as to say, like, you know, they're all of the type where it's like, you know, once were they married? I forget.
Engaged?
Okay, they were talking about getting married. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, forget about those rules where it's like, okay, she belongs to him or whatever, like, with like that old fucking like archaic bullshit. You know that if she doesn't kill you, Tony's gonna kill you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't punch his sister in the face. Like, that's not gonna work.
The another character. So, a lot of characters I hate pretty much the entire. I mean, on purpose. Like, they're written that way.
Yeah, like, you're supposed to. That's the thing that drove David Chase insane. Was he's like, these are the worst, most terrible people in the world. Why are you rooting for them? You're supposed to hate them.
Oh yeah, well, that's the thing. People have been saying that a lot lately. Show where you root for the bad guy, or that you. I don't root for any of these characters. It's not true. There's one character that I root for, and it's the only character that I actually like, and that's Bobby. Just this.
Oh, Bobby Bacala.
He's just wonderful. He seems like the sweetest guy, and in the moment where, like, you're like, is he even in the mob? Like, what's his deal? You're like, does he do anything bad? And then he just says 5 words to a guy on a union, and that guy then does what he says, and I was like, oh, that was intense.
Well, you know what the funny thing is like, especially in the first like season or so that Bobby's in it, because he's not in the first season. Maybe he's in it for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, and he starts off as like Junior's errand boy, and you know, he's posed, especially when you in conflict with Junior and with Tony around. He's like, what's his name? He's like Robbie, you know, the guy who plays Robbie in New Girl in Veep. Like, that's who they give you basically the first season or 2 that he's in it, and then he becomes an actual, honest to God, real character in the show after that. And it's like, oh, like, there is something more to him other than being literal punching bag.
Mm-hmm. There was a great episode though where Junior is slowly starting to decay, and he's watching TV and he's watching Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, which is great.
Is that Bobby? Bobby's on the TV,
and he thinks he's Larry, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He says, "Am I on the TV?" It's funny because he does look like Larry a little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, that show's too much. And I'm looking forward to it being over.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Like I said, it definitely does weigh on you. It's supposed to. You definitely hate the characters. You're supposed to. And if you can't find like overwhelming enjoyment in that, like I can understand because it is a dark show. Like I said, there were times where, I'd watch say 2 episodes back to back and I was like, oh, maybe those 2 episodes were too much. I need to give myself a day or two. Mm-hmm. And then I'd get back to it. Or like, if I was at work, I'd normally crush 4 or 5 episodes or something. And maybe I would only watch 1 or 2 that night and I would go into something else for a little bit. And then, okay, let me dip my toe back in. I can maybe come back for one more Soprano. Like it is what it is.
But so we took a break from it for a few days. We caught up on an entire season of Scrubs, and then still weren't ready to go back into it, and caught up on like the last 2 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And I've told you this a million times.
I heard one of the recent ones was like maybe one of the best they've ever done.
They figured it out. They figured out every character. They know how to write them all perfectly. They're done. They should end the season because they've peaked.
Wow.
Like, it's so good right now. It's so funny. And I do think that it would be right up your alley if you got... I can't remember the very, very, very early seasons, though. So I don't remember... I remember always enjoying it. I definitely don't remember enjoying it as much as I enjoy it right now.
Well, so I do wonder, is it still the same showrunner? Because I know they switched networks, obviously.
I'm not sure, actually. But even before they switched networks, it was very good.
Well, it's not uncommon for those. It's such a paradox, right? Because it's not uncommon for those sorts of shows to have a really rough start and then find their swing. But sometimes they don't make it to the point of getting into the swing. And I wonder, like, when you look at a show like that, and I'm not saying it was as rough in the beginning, or like we've talked in the past about Parks and Rec, where like the first season is almost unwatchable.
Yeah.
And the only reason I stuck with it was because I'd seen a handful of episodes in like the 3rd or 4th season. And I was like, this is a really funny show, so I'll just hang on until I get there. Like, I do know there is light at the end. I know for a fact there's light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yeah, at the end of the tunnel is Paul Rudd smiling.
Yeah, and it's like, how can it be so starkly different, right? Like, even, it's funny, my first impression of the pilot of Schitt's Creek, I didn't get it at all.
Yeah.
I watched it again a few weeks later. I'd already watched the whole first season. I watched it again a few weeks later with my brother and his girlfriend who wanted to get into the show. And I liked it so much better than... I was like, to the point where I was like, I don't even remember why I didn't like this. Like, it's definitely not as funny as what comes after it, but it's like...
I'm with you. I think it has something to do with you have to give them... Well, in a lot of situations, it is bad. Like, right now, if you were to go rewatch the first season of Parks and Rec, it is still tough to get through. It's not... Like, there's a couple of funny things. With something like Schitt's Creek, it wasn't that they had, like, needed the time to figure out the characters. It's like, they knew, and you just weren't in on it yet.
Yes, that's part of it. Well, the other thing, though, is it took them, like, an episode and a half. Like, by the time the second by the time the second episode was fully in swing, it's like I could already see like, okay, like we're going somewhere now, and then you're into the 3rd episode and like you're just watching the show. No, it's in the 2nd season. It's in the 2nd episode. In the 2nd episode is the one where they go see the sign outside of town.
Yeah.
So like they are immediately like really fun, and like you're getting a feel for how the setup and delivery of jokes works, what the punchlines, where they're going to come, and what these characters are about, and what sort of mixes of them can work, to the point where like I don't know how a show could be so off like Parks is. And Parks isn't the only show that's like that, which is a really rough. And Scrubs does it like, it's not perfect, but almost infinitely better than Parks does in the first season. Now, admittedly, it's like 3 times as many episodes. But still, from the first, I remember pretty, like, the first 3 or 4 episodes, what they were. And it has some of that Schitt's Creek, like, setup where it's like, okay, you just need you to hang on for a second. to understand who these characters are.
Yeah.
But there are still jokes that work without having a deep bank of knowledge on these people and the situations yet. There are things that, like, it's just better written. And I don't understand how there could be, like, such a stark difference like that with someone who so clearly is brilliant. And it's obviously it's a group of writers, right? Mike Schur wasn't the only writer.
Right.
Harris Whittles was a huge part of the success of Parks and Rec. He wasn't the only one. And the thing is, after he died, the show was still really funny. So it's not like he was the only secret sauce in there.
Yeah.
So I'm always confused when that sort of thing happens. And like I said,
Parks... No, I think that's a really good, though, right? Because if you can identify those things, then sometimes it's just a bad episode. And sometimes it's just a bad season.
But it's hard when the first season's a bad season.
It is. It's very hard. It's very hard. And you don't, honestly, like, you can't really blame a drop-off if that's the case. Like, I don't know. The Good Place is another one where I actually think it's similar to Schitt's Creek, where if you were to go and if you watch The Good Place and then you were to go rewatch it, like, those earlier episodes are funny because they had the characters, they knew what they wanted them to be and how they wanted them to be, and there's no ramp up time. They just drop you in.
Obviously, Mike Schur learned from his failings in Parks and Rec, and I'm glad that he had the reason, like, the ability and the space to do that. And it's just like that is the problem with the first season. Is, like, sure, there's issues with the writing or whatever, but the problem is the characters suck.
Yeah,
every main character is totally one note, and you can't survive that.
No.
I mean, there's depth to the characters in Schitt's Creek, despite the fact that they're all, with the exception of Johnny, maybe, the worst people ever when the first episode comes around.
Yeah.
You start to see, after the first episode, there are pieces of real human beings in there, even if they've lost touch with that humanity. In Scrubs, you're introduced to the predominant factor. JD's, I don't know, like, super... dweeby. Elliot's Elliot's super insecure. Turk is overconfident. Dr. Cox is a dick. Like, but there is something more to each of them, and it's on display from the very first episode.
Yeah,
and then you get an opportunity to see that full picture develop over time, and that picture change over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. And then I'm trying to think, like, I don't normally. What's a show where they don't? Can you think of a show where you've went through and they never really fully recovered from it?
What do you mean? Like in the first season?
Or have you ever stuck with something that you thought maybe they, like, giving it the chance because you know that first seasons or first episodes can be bumpy, and then by the end of it you were like, it wasn't worth it?
At the end of a first season, or like a whole show?
The whole show.
Yeah, I feel like I have. But I think they were shorter run shows because they didn't recover.
Because they didn't work.
Yeah. I'm struggling to think of one now, but as soon as you're saying it, I'm like, yeah, I feel like I've definitely gone through that. Like, but I contrast, like, what goes on with Parks early on and the successes of something like Scrubs, or, like you're saying, The Good Place, as opposed to when you say sometimes there's just a bad episode, sometimes there's just a bad season, right? New Girl is the best example that I can think of.
Oh.
First season, really good. Second season, really good. Third season, train wreck. I don't remember the layout of the seasons, but I do remember there's definitely a dip. A lot of it blurs in my mind too, but basically, from the moment that Nick and Jess get together, it doesn't work because the show doesn't know how to write it. It stops becoming funny. Mm-hmm. There's just episodes where you just, like, sit in the fact that they're just a couple. Like, that is the point of the episode, is they're a couple.
Yeah.
And it's like, what sort of hijinks are they going to get up to? But there are no hijinks, or the hijinks aren't, like, targeted. And then they break up, and it's not because the characters weren't a match. It's just because they didn't know how to write them being a match.
Yeah.
Because by the end of the show, they figure it out, right?
And you know what? Thank God you stuck with that, though, right? Because if you don't stick with that, you don't get got you cookie, gave you cookie.
But that's my point, is they knew what worked in the show, and they figured out, oh God, we can't make this work. Let's get rid of it, because we do know how to do the thing that works occasionally. Let's just go back to that. And sure, like, it felt cheap. Like, I mean, like, people break up and get back together in shows all the time. And usually when there's a good show, there's like reasons for that. And not just, we don't know how to do this.
Right.
But they climbed back. I almost dropped that show. The third season was bad. And I was watching that live at that point. I didn't watch the first season live. I think I caught up to and picked up sometime in the second season. Or for the start of the third season. And I'm glad I stuck with it because I had actually a couple friends who loved the show who did drop it during that time. And I was like, you guys got to come back to the fold. Like,
come back.
It's gotten better again. And they're like, okay, like I'll give it a shot.
You just give them a cookie and you're like, you'll know soon.
No, and then they're like, I'm glad I came back. Like, it was brutal, but like they've figured it out again. And it's like, and they did. And then eventually they grew up enough to know how to write it better.
That show really was something special because there are clips and lines from that show that will pop into my head out of nowhere, and I'll just chuckle. I'll catch a glimpse of like a mole, and I'll think of the scene with Schmidt talking to Cece. I think he's talking to Cece, and she's like, "You ever think about how you're going to die or something along those lines?" It's like, I know how I'm going to die. One of these moles is going to turn green, and that's going to be the old end of old Schmitty.
One I always think of, and it's such a stupid line, and I think it was when Jess and Nick were dating the first time, but it was early on when like it hadn't really sunk in, like, oh god, this is a train wreck. Then they have what's his name, Rob Reiner was on, playing Jess's father, and she didn't want him to tell the dad that they were together yet because she hadn't told him, and he comes over and he's staying, and he goes, "You can't leave me alone with him. I'm gonna crack." And she goes, "Okay, it's fine. We'll just come up with some excuse." And he goes, because she had to run out and do something. I don't remember what it was. And so she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave." And he goes, "Oh, it's okay. Like, I'll just hang out with Nick." And he's like, "Shit." And he's like, No, I can't. I am busy." And he goes, "With what?" And he goes, "Documents."
Yes,
I have documents. He goes, "Documents?" He goes, "Yes, I have documents."
Oh man, Nick had some great ones, including but not limited to, "Why should I pay for the Wi-Fi if I don't use the Wi-Fi?" Oh man, he cracks me up. It'll also, when they figure Winston goes nuts by the end of the series, and it's just a great thing to watch him go crazy.
Yeah,
you're not a super fan of that, but
I wasn't a parent. No, I didn't love him in the middle of the show because. And it was when Coach joined the show, there was just too many characters. Yeah. And so it basically meant...
Too many cooks.
It basically meant for like an entire episode, we don't know what to do with Coach this episode. Cook? We don't know what to do with Coach this episode. Okay, this episode, we don't know what to do with Winston this episode. Okay, we're going to have a 6-episode arc where Winston's just going to be totally irrelevant. And it's like, guys, figure it out. Like, just make it work. And then when Coach left... they were able to get back into like, okay, guys, we've had 3 different versions of Winston and none of them have really worked. So let's find one where he's just going to be nuts. And like, it started getting funny eventually. I did enjoy him later on. I love myself a classic Winston and Cece mess around.
Oh yeah. So good. So good.
But yeah, I don't know. There was a period in the middle of the show where Winston wasn't doing it for me.
Huh. But he's definitely completely back by, "These are my favorite brown shoes." Winston, those are green. They're brown, like Kermit the Frog and money.
That one was great.
I love it. Other show. Last thing on my list of things that I just watched a little bit of one of the SNL episodes before we got on. Mostly watched like 2 skits and then fast forwarded for the weekend update and then ended it. It's a little difficult to watch without.
I watched the Brad Pitt as Anthony Fauci thing. That's all I've seen in the last few weeks.
And I always love weekend updates. So, but even so, like with their delay and the lack of response from the audience, it's a little bit,
yeah, that one,
it's tough.
You need them sitting next to each other, and you need the audience.
Yeah. It's tough.
Because there's so many times where you can see them break because of the audience.
Oh yeah.
There's times where they break because of the line as they're reading it, and there's times where they break because the audience just goes nuts.
Well, you know how I think I've brought this up to you before, but they do. I think it's at the end of the year they'll do the thing on the Weekend Update where each of the hosts will write jokes for the other one that they're not allowed to read until the airing.
Are you sure they're not doing that every week now?
I don't know if they're doing it every week now, but that's usually like a big thing that they do at the end of the year, like at the season finale.
Because I remember you saying that to me like last year, and I watched.
It happens a couple times.
I watched a handful of episodes in kind of quick succession because they had hosts that I wanted to see, and it felt like that was what they were doing every week. Like
it's definitely not every week, because when they do it, it's like announced as a game that's about to happen.
Oh, because like I think it was in January, like all of a sudden they started off the year with like there was like 3 guests in the first 4 that I really want. It was like Adam Driver, JJ Watt, and Daniel Craig were like 3 of the 4 like episodes in a quick succession. It was, a few weeks before they started canceling them, and I felt like every time I watched Weekend Update, and this is the first time in years that I was watching them like week by week.
Yeah.
It felt like multiple times they were breaking as their eyes hit the lines on the prompter. And
I do think that they fuck with each other sometimes and have them change it a little bit.
That's what I was saying, like, because it felt like the reaction is the way that you are when you see something for the first time.
Yeah, that's true. But no, this is a specific thing that they do where they make the jokes bad. Like,
well, yes, it wasn't all that per se, but it felt like they were coming in blind to some of the lines they were reading.
Well, anyway, for this one, they did there's like an all-in campaign where if you donate the most amount of money, you get to write one for Michael Shea.
Oh, that's funny.
And so that was that. I'm looking forward to seeing that when it comes through. But that's pretty much what I'm watching.
I can tell you what I'm not watching.
What are you not watching?
And I realized today, man, I miss Better Call Saul and Devs.
Oh,
right? Yeah. Especially Better Call Saul, I think, because in Devs, it felt like the first 4 episodes were so out of this world. And the last 4 were good, but it felt like they really set a tone that they didn't necessarily carry the momentum through until like the very end. But like Better Call Saul, those last 4 or 5 episodes of the season were out of this world. So like that was my most recent like thing, was like, man, like just felt like every week ratcheted it up again. It's like, well, they can't get better than this, and then they did, and then they can't get better than this, and then they did.
Yeah, right. I'm definitely on board for another Saul and Kim mess around.
Dude, I don't even think we talked about it last week, like specifically, but like how horrifying those finger guns were. Like I think we came up quickly, but like
we did talk about it. It's terrifying.
I remember it coming up, and I was just like, oh no.
Something about like also like the angle. It's not even like it's the act. It's the portrayal. It's the delivery, and it's the angle at which they shot that.
Yeah,
like underneath. I don't know. It was messed up. Yeah,
because it's shot basically from his perspective, sitting at the bed.
Yeah,
and like,
oh god,
the look on her face for a second, like as a like well, part of it is because like I've seen like gifs of that like floating around the internet now. I've seen like someone,
the eyes. They're crazy.
You know what it was? It was Alan Sepinwall, who I've mentioned before. He writes for Rolling Stone, covering TV, and he was saying and I haven't even had a chance to read them. I just haven't had time. He at the end of the season, he dropped. He had done a couple weeks before a big interview with Ray Seahorn. He did a big one with Golden and Gilligan. He did a season wrap up, like all together, and. So, like, the other day, he was like, I'm really going to miss watching and writing about Saul, because I don't know when we're going to get it back. It's not going to be a year. It's going to be a year and a half, 2 years.
Right.
And, he goes, so in the meantime, and he took, that's the scene from A Star is Born where he's like, he turns around, he's like, I want to get one more look or whatever.
Yeah.
He did that with Lalo sitting in the car and Kim doing the finger guns. It's her right before she does it. He goes, I just want to get one more look. And then it's her. And then it's her doing the finger gun.
Oh my God. That's great. That's great.
But yeah, I realized, like, man, I miss Saul. Because every week I was like, oh shit, what are they going to do this week? And the next week it's like, oh God, what are they going to do this week?
Yeah. I would definitely, I'm looking forward to that wrapping up, seeing how this whole thing plays out. And then honestly, we'll have to talk about this as a potential project for us, like a short-term project, not a short-term, a shorter project that won't go on forever like this show will, because this show will go on forever. But where we do something with like maybe each episode or each season or each half season of Better Call Saul, because I think it's worth the deep dive.
Yeah, I'd be down. I definitely am going to want to rewatch because at this point...
Oh yeah, 100%. I think we should watch it as we go.
I think at this point, I really have forgotten a lot of the details of the first season because I haven't revisited any of it since I watched it live.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like 5 years ago now.
No, I'm with you. I haven't rewatched a single episode.
So, like, I've rewatched bits of it, like when my brother was catching up, but like not anything substantial. But as far as what I am watching, I got a chance finally the other day, although I almost kind of fell asleep a little bit through one of the episodes. I was so tired. I got to watch the beginning of What We're Doing in the Shadows, the new season.
Oh, how was it?
So it does sound like you do want to get to it at some point.
Yeah.
There's something that happens at the end of the first season. Guillermo finds out stuff about his lineage and and it affects his relationship with Nandor and Laszlo and Nadia, and he has to keep that a secret from them.
Okay.
But it makes for some incredible hilarity. They've already added a bunch of new guest stars. The first episode of this new season had Haley Joel Osment, who is playing just a total douchebag. And he's Nadia and Laszlo's new familiar. And they chronicle at the beginning of the episode how all their familiars keep dying. And all of them die in the most spectacular, accidental ways. Like, the first one was like trying to like get something like off of like a post, or was like hanging in the gutter, and like Laszlo was like in his ear, like, come on, like do it already. And he slips off the ladder and falls and impales himself on the top of a wrought iron spike on the fence. Naturally. You know, just all of like, there's like 4 or 5. They're like, oh, we found a new familiar. He's great. Our last one died. After the one before that one died. Before that one, and they were counting all the ridiculous, like 6 of them died in the course of like 5 weeks or something like that. Like, it's like some absurd, like, and it's just the two. Like, one of them actually forgot one of their names, like, and so Guillermo and I don't even remember Haley Joel Osment's character's name, but the two of them just butting heads constantly. But the thing is, not only do the two of them love Haley Joel Osment, who's a total sleaze, total suck up, even Nandor loves him. Like, every time he comes in, they're like, oh, like he's here, like, yeah. And like Guillermo walks in and they're like nah. And it's so fucked up. So now Guillermo hates him, and what's his name? Just like, he just doesn't even care what Guillermo thinks. And Colin Robinson's just kind of there floating in the background. He's trying to practice new ways to feed. Colin Robinson's the energy vampire. Right. I've now been practicing humor. So he's writing terrible jokes.
There are a handful of things that I remember so vividly from the handful of episodes that I watched, and the way that they play him walking into a room and you feeling the energy drain is like, the actors nail it on screen every time.
Yes. And he is so great. Yeah, he was in Better Call Saul. Yeah. He was in Better Call Saul too in the early episodes.
In the Hummer.
Yeah. He's so great in his understatement in like his delivery on a lot of these things, and the way that he can go so monotone when he wants to, when he's in energy. Like, the best is sometimes like he does it to he's because the energy vampire is the only one who can feed on an actual vampire, right? And sometimes it takes them a second to realize what's going on, and there's times where he'll be doing it and he goes, by the way, I'm feeding on you guys right now. They're like, stop! But there's a way, like, it's so great. Sometimes, like what you said, like he's walking through a room and feeding, and you see him walking, and all of a sudden he'll just go and he'll look at the camera over his shoulder, and he's just got this face, and I was like, oh my god, it's horrifying. And like they'll play with like the way like his eyes like reflect in like the camera and stuff.
Yeah.
So he cracks me up. He spends I think it was the whole first episode trying to get someone to do the what's up, dog. Yeah. He spends the whole episode trying to get someone to do it.
It's stupid. It's so dumb.
They go to a superb owl party.
No. I really do have to watch this.
What's his name? Looks like what's his name's joining as it looks like he's joining as maybe a potential like recurring character, Craig Robinson.
Oh, thank God. Put him in everything.
Yeah, he was in the first episode, and he wasn't in the second or third, but they made it pretty clear that him and another group of people are going to be recurring characters.
He plays the character Doug Judy on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he is a reoccurring guest star. And it basically, the episodes with him are very different than the other ones. And like, you don't know what's happening until he appears, and then when it's there, you're like, "Yes, we're getting another one of these."
It's like Seth Rogen on The League as Dirty Randy.
Yes, exactly. Like you'll get Mantzoukas every once in a while,
yeah.
But it won't be like a show hijack. Like he just like implements with the rest of them, and like it's some ridiculous thing goes on. But when the Craig Robinson ones happen, they're just like these. There's like you could connect all of the Craig Robinson episodes as like one series, basically. Wow. And they're so good. So good. The Pontiac Bandit.
They've already got right off onto the ground running with this one. It's been really good first few episodes so far. I think there's only been 3 because the FX is doing this thing now where when a season starts, they're playing the first 2 episodes that night.
Oh, weird.
They did it with Devs. There was the first 2 episodes on FX on Hulu. Brian was so mad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think they're doing that with like all their shows now. So the first 2 were out, but I had missed that one, and then the third one came out. And I think I watched all 3 of them over 2 nights, and I think the next one's tomorrow.
Nice. All right, I'll definitely have to pick that up.
The nice thing about that one is it's such like a quick,
it's a short show,
short watch. Although I know my cousin Mike, hey Mike, said that he watched the whole first season. He had actually seen the movie, and he said he prefers the movie. I know.
I definitely want to see the movie.
Me too. I don't know if it's necessarily a show that's great in binge format. I think it's a nice type of show where like you check in for an episode or 2 at a time.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe you kind of get like a nerd.
Because it's too much of that.
Yeah, I think you just kind of get a nerd to like the pace of what they're doing.
Yeah. I can see that.
So I like it as like a weekly check-in.
Nice. What say we get into some fun and games?
Actually, one last thing.
Oh, he has a thing.
Oh, 2 last things. Both small things.
2 things.
Things I'm watching. One doesn't probably necessarily super interest you. I'm just going to mention it just because I am watching it. The Last Dance, which is the 10-part documentary on Michael Jordan and the Bulls final championship, but it's also about like everything that led them to that moment too.
Sure.
Really interesting watch, especially for me. Like, I'm not the biggest basketball fan in the world, but like it's because I hate the Knicks so much. But growing up, I remember, how all-encompassing Jordan was, and that was, before the internet actually was a real thing that mattered. And I didn't know about all these things going on. Like, if I was older, I probably would have known. I would have been more like tuned into those things. So I found a lot of it fascinating. There's a ton of like old archival footage to stuff that like, with back then, right, if you didn't watch the thing live, you would never see it again. Maybe you would see like 1 second of it on SportsCenter. There weren't a lot of things to see, and there definitely wasn't ways to go find it once it had already happened. Forget about just DVR. Like, it didn't exist. Like, now you can pop on YouTube or whatever and go find it. And it's like, oh, like, these are the highlights from that game. And like, it's great. Or whatever it is you wanted to see. So I find it kind of fascinating. Even though I think 10 parts is probably too many parts in this case, I still do find it a little bit fascinating.
How many too many?
I think 5 would have been enough.
Okay.
I've watched 3 of 4 that have been out, and there's going to be 10. And it feels like 5 would have probably been enough. I don't know what the next 5 are going to be about. Next 7 are going to be about. Holy shit.
Yeah. You're like, it's time to wrap it up.
No, I just like, I'm curious to see, like, they're doing this weird thing. I actually don't super love how I wish they would have done it more chronological than they're doing. Because like each episode has a particular person or a thing they want to focus on.
Okay.
But then they keep coming back to where that final season is going, because that's what it's about, is the final season together.
Yeah. And
then like they jump back into like a 20-minute story about Dennis Rodman and how he got to the Bulls after like a full, like, this is him as a kid. This is him in high school and college. You went to like a bullshit college. Like, okay, this is him playing with the Detroit Pistons, and the Bulls were playing against the Pistons, and they couldn't get over the hump. And then it's he's on the Bulls, and this is them in their final season. And I was like, that's frustrating. Like, just like kind of give it to me semi-chronologically. This is too much.
You know what really hit me when you said Dennis Rodman?
What?
Flashbacks of watching the movie Double Team with him and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Wow.
Yeah. That's something that I
forgot that Dennis Rodman...
I think there's a tiger fight in that movie.
I'm sure there must have been. I've never seen the movie, but I'm sure there must have been.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, no, I forgot. I totally forgot Dennis Rodman as an actor was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's something I'm watching. Something that I have to catch up on because I've missed the last 2 episodes of is the Clone Wars because there's only 1 or 2 episodes left.
Oh, yeah. And then wasn't there like word that one of those was like the best Clone Wars episode that has aired?
What I had heard before the episode or before the season started was that one of these episodes has possibly the greatest Star Wars fight scenes ever put on screen. It is one of the ones I have not watched yet, I believe.
Okay. All right. That's cool.
So the way they've broken it up, it seems, is because I've watched 7 of the 12, 8 of the 12. I forget how many. It seems like it's been broken up into 3 arcs of 4 episodes each. And so the first 4 arcs was about a particular batch of clones called the Bad Batch, as well as Captain Rex, who obviously you've watched. You never finished Rebels, did you? Mm-mm. You watched TV weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just that Rebels is good.
It is.
I don't know. I don't watch a lot of. I don't watch much TV by myself.
That's part of it.
So I feel like if I was watching just random shows by myself, I'd probably finish that off. But
yeah.
The show that I watch Flash. So like, if there's a minute where I'm going to go watch an episode of something like alone, that's probably what I'm going to catch up on because I'm like addicted to that show.
I know you were doing Rebels during your lunch break for a while.
I was, yeah. That was at my previous job. I haven't
that's right.
In a while,
I forgot.
Actually, I could go back to doing that. It was a good lunch. It was a good lunch. It was like you had to you separated for like 20 minutes, 22 minutes, however long it is. I ate my lunch, got my Star Wars fix, and got back in. Then I would put on Star Wars music. It was great. It was actually good. It was a good day. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe that's how I'll finish the series.
Anyway, I didn't mean to.
No, you gave me a plan.
No, I didn't mean to like overwhelm you like that. Or I just realized as I was talking about it, I was like, wait a minute, he never actually told me he finished it. I feel like he would have been like, oh my god, because that was the type of show where it's like, I felt like the first season or 2, like it was fine, and then it got successfully better up until having a really strong final season, which is generally how you kind of want a show to go. Because how many shows that was an amazing first season, I can't wait till the next season, and then it never recaptures that glory.
Boom, boom, boom.
There's got to be some sort of middle ground between Parks and Homeland, where like Parks is a train wreck that becomes one of the most glorious things ever, and Homeland has one of the most incredible first seasons ever, and then never recaptures it, and by the end is like just a travesty. So like, there's got to be some middle ground between the 2.
I still want to watch that.
I watched the first 3 or 4 episodes of the final season, like concurrent or like the next day. And I haven't watched the last 7 episodes or whatever. Like the finale was on Sunday night. I haven't watched like 6 or 7 episodes.
Wow.
But anyway, Clone Wars. First 4 episodes were really strong. Middle 4, so-so. There's some good, there's some bad. But they directly set up the final batch, which is the Siege of Mandalore, which is what's ongoing right now. Super important, obviously, for story reasons, character reasons, all that jazz, and it's going to be probably a pretty fitting end to all of this.
Nice. I'm curious. Like the thing is, like it's Star Wars content that exists, so I do want to watch it. It's just I feel like there's just so much of it.
It doesn't have to be a huge priority. Obviously, you have to choose how much of the rest of Clone Wars you want to get to. Sure. Like to just be able to engage with the final season in any meaningful way. Obviously, the Mortis trilogy is something you're going to want to get to, no matter what. There are other runs that are great too. If you really, really want to know, like you're like, hey, I want to watch this, but I don't want to watch the whole thing. Let me know, and I can spend some time on a weekend, like picking through. True. These are the essential episodes you should watch.
Yeah. All right. We'll see if I get to that point. But cool. I'm glad that you've got some awesome Star Wars stuff on deck, because I feel like when you bring that in, and then we have Star Wars Day coming up, we'll have some nice stuff to talk about.
Yes.
So let's do it, Al.
Okay.
Fun and games. All right.
Yep.
Which retro Arnold Schwarzenegger movie are you?
Maybe we did do this one?
I thought we did, but then the questions didn't look familiar.
So maybe we did something like this.
It's possible. Or it was the same quiz, just on a different site. This is from newretrowave.com.
Okay.
That was hard to read. All those letters smashed up against each other in the URL. Difficult to read.
I feel like I got Commando last time.
Yes, you did. Was it which character, though?
Maybe it might have been what character.
I think it was which character. This is which movie.
Okay.
All right. And Siri is trying to talk to me, and I don't want to talk. All right. Pick a book. Game of Thrones.
I thought you were just going to make me choose a book.
Just pick a book, bro. Game of Thrones. It's a Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Neuromancer. Dune. The Gunslinger. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Ooh. Oh, that's a really tough choice between Dragon Tattoo and Game of Thrones. Let's go with Game of Thrones.
All right. Which 80s movie would be better with the addition of Arnold Schwarzenegger? Sorry, there's no all of the above option.
Wow.
Labyrinth. Whoa. Ghostbusters. Aliens. Lethal Weapon. Escape from New York.
That is such a random list, but before you started listing them, my first thing that jumped into my mind was he might be interesting in one of the Aliens movies, so obviously that's the answer.
Nice. All right. Pick a classic synthwave banger. All right. Dynatron, Stars of the Night, Zombie Hyperdrive, Red Eyes, Mega Drive, I Am the Program, Laserhawk, King of the Streets, or Miami Nights 1984, Accelerated.
So here's the thing. I don't know any of those songs, at least not by their titles. So wasn't there one about a shark or something in there?
There's a Laserhawk.
The Laserhawk, that's the one.
Shark with laser beams on their heads.
You're a hawk, shark sound close enough. Like I was like, there's something in there about an animal. Right. Yeah, that's the one. It's got Laserhawk. Let's do it.
Pick a recent movie. Ooh, good options. Well, some good options. 2 good options. Pick a recent movie. The Nice Guys, Gamer, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, Ex Machina, or Thor Ragnarok.
Ooh. So the funny thing is, Dominic, I think, kind of likes that movie Gamer. Or maybe he just enjoys Michael C. Hall in it, who needs to be in more things. Really good actor. I've heard The Nice Guys is really good. I've never seen it, and I kind of wanted to when it was coming out.
I saw Michael C. Hall in Hedwig in The Angry Inch.
Okay.
That was a bizarre show. You know what it was? It was a Broadway show.
Yeah.
It was, and it was unfortunate because it seemed like it was really good and the music sounded really good, but for whatever reason, maybe it was the acoustics of where we were sitting, or maybe it was like whoever was on sound that night, you couldn't really understand anything in any of the songs or lyrics, and it was frustrating.
Oh, wait, he was singing in that?
Yes.
I didn't know he could sing. Yeah, actually, he's done a few plays, hasn't he? Which he never struck me as like a big. I don't know. Maybe he's just such a grouch in Dexter that I never saw him like a Broadway actor. But like he is legitimately pretty great in that show, and the couple of other little things I've seen him in are interesting as well. But all of that's to say that I'm going to go with Ex Machina.
I figured as much.
Although Thor Ragnarok is such a great choice too. But
yeah, for sure, that would have been my choice. But I love that movie so much. How would you describe what you did last weekend? Goofy, intense, lonely, sleazy, or legal?
Technically, it was illegal. Okay. I didn't leave my house, okay?
Pick a Final Fantasy protagonist. Titus, Zidane, Lightning, Cloud, Squall.
I hate all of those names so much. Let's go with Cloud.
Okay. How do you feel about choppers? No. Oh, God,
wait, hang on a second.
I can't wait for these.
Hang on a second. If one of those isn't some form of get to it, I'm going to be so mad.
It is. It's the only one that's in caps. But I'm going to read, it's right in the middle. No opinion, which is so far my favorite option. Some of my best friends are choppers, buddy.
What?
Maybe like, I don't know. You must get to it, in all caps, with an exclamation point. They are totally super cool. They are used by the government to spy on people.
If you choose anything other than you get to it, you must get to it.
You must get to it.
Then you're not playing this game right. So
you got the Predator.
Nice. Okay, solid choice.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
You know what?
Beautiful.
I can appreciate that philosophy. It's very simple. It's very straightforward.
It is. Al, with that, let's get into our flick of the week. End of Days, released in 1999, this action fantasy horror thriller runs at 2 hours and 2 minutes. The synopsis from IMDb. At the end of the century, Satan visits New York in search of a bride. It's up to an ex-cop who now runs an elite security outfit to stop him. Why, though?
Sorry, I just want to... I got really thrown off there. It's a what? It's an action thriller fantasy horror?
Yes.
All at the same time?
I guess.
Okay.
I think they could have gotten away with action horror.
Well, I'm looking at the IMDb top of the thing. It says action, fantasy, horror, which it is all those things. And when you put them there as like tags, it's like, okay. And you could have even added thriller as a tag, but when you put them all together in a sentence like that, it's like you're trying too hard.
Are they all separated by dashes?
Yeah, right.
It's a single descriptor.
Right, like when you have like something like free to play, which is all like dashed in between them, and it's like action thriller horror fantasy.
Now, this movie, it's probably like, I'm not saying it's good, but it certainly is better than it has any right to be. Is that a fair statement?
It's funny because I approached this kind of the opposite way, where you come from this with a decent amount of nostalgia because you loved the movie when it came out.
Oh,
this is the first time I've ever seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it. You put it on Plex for me. I turned it on. Well, sorry. I selected it on Plex. And Plex pulls the Rotten Tomatoes scores.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, fuck, it doesn't have it here on IMDb. It was like an 11 on like the tomato meter. And like 30%, like, or 38%, something like that, like, audience review. I was like, oh god, I knew this was a bad movie, but this is going to be so bad.
Yeah.
So I will give you my tweet length review now.
Hit me.
A super cheesy action flick that wastes Gabriel Byrne and most of my time. Not bad, but definitely not good. It exists.
It exists. What are we giving it? What's your out of 10 rating?
I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10.
Okay. Well, we're on the money. I gave it a 5 out of 10 as well. I said, you think it might be different since it was marketed as a horror movie. You're wrong. It's just a Schwarzenegger flick.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I did like it when I was younger. Like, I was rewatching it, I was like, this is not even spooky. it's
no, I mean, there's a jump scare or two.
With a cat. There's a jump scare with a cat.
There's some creepy ambiance with the chanting, the chanting music.
You know what's really funny? They interchangeably use that sound, chanting, and metal music. And sometimes you're like, oh, when they go into this door, somebody's going to be listening to metal music on the other side. But no, they were just using that as a tone setter, which was very confusing.
Well, that probably has to come... That probably has to do with the fact that it came out in 1999.
Sure. You want to go through some taglines?
Please.
All right. There's a lot. This movie has a lot of taglines, which leads me to believe there were a lot of posters. It was definitely in my face. I also saw this movie too young because I saw this in theaters.
Yeah. I'll say this before you get to the taglines.
Yeah.
Briefest of spoilers. Not a super important one. For the most part, this was pretty standard Schwarzenegger action fare. Could have been PG-13. Could have been R because there was some cursing.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of blood, but it wasn't really egregious. And like some of it was even like animal blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But scene on the train when the creepy guy with who was like a demon apparition hobo,
right?
Who had the exact same, and I mean the exact same prosthetic on his face that Jack Nicholson had as the Joker. When he just walks up to her and goes, "Christine, he's gonna fuck you," and I was like, "What now?"
Yeah,
he's gonna fuck you, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, so
that was something that a 9-year-old you didn't need to watch.
That definitely not. I didn't need that. I also didn't need the light rape that happens throughout the movie. But
the light rape.
It's we'll get to that. I have questions.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get through these taglines, of which there are many, of which some are not taglines so much as they are the synopsis of the movie, which is very confusing to me. But anyway.
Well, I've heard theories on this. When the movie has too many taglines, it's because, when they go through that whole thing in, like, the marketing department, usually, like, it ends up going down to, like, a short list of, like, 3. And then you pick the one, and then the other 2 get it, like, spread around a little bit. When there's this many taglines, 2 things have happened. 1, they can't decide on one, which means they can't decide on any of them.
Right.
And 2, the movie's probably not very good. Because if you can't describe it in some way, shape, or form with one line, you don't even know what the movie's about, which this movie often doesn't know what it is.
Which you are completely right. You've managed to hit on a lot of what's going on in these taglines, of which there is definitely one that's trying too hard, and there's definitely one that somebody went, I don't know. All right, so let's get into them. The first is the ultimate battle of good versus evil.
Nope.
No. Prepare for the end.
Okay.
That would have been fine. The end is near.
Okay.
A little too obvious, but that's fine. This one's the second longest one. When the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison.
That's an elevator pitch.
That is also a line in the movie, and I think somebody read the script and saw the word loosed and was like, let's just use that one. The next one...
Anytime you can use loose as a verb, you gotta do it.
Sure. The next one is the phoned-in one that just says prepare.
But you know what? It's succinct in a way that cuts through the crap of that one that was a paragraph long that you just read before.
How about the next one that's prepare for the end of days? Those 2 guys went one after the other in the board meeting.
Prepare. Prepare for the end of days. Or it could have been vice versa. Prepare for the end of days. That's just the movie, guy. Fuck. Prepare.
Then the next one is the long one. On the eve of the millennium, an ex-cop torn by loss must regain his faith in order to quell the end of days.
Okay, so again, this is just a synopsis that was on the cover page to the script being sent to the producer.
Also false. I will say that there's in no way, shape, or form does he regain his faith.
He prays really quick in the last 3 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. Oh, man. And the last one, which is probably the best one and what they should have gone with, because it also, the ellipses are actually in the tagline. You will bear witness to the end of days.
I could buy that.
I can get on board with that one. The box office for this guy, the budget was $100 million. Opening was $20 million. Domestic, give me a guess. What do you got?
47.
67.
Close.
Worldwide.
128.
211. In what world is this movie doing 211?
The world.
1999. Man.
So it's funny because because this is no way, shape, or form spoiler. This is just, the legend of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Also, it came out in 99, so not that big of a deal.
Correct.
If it were a spoiler.
Yeah, sure. No, but I just like to, if there are people who like to pause and come back to it. So, in abundance of care and respect for those people, we'll still name it clearly when we're going to break the spoilers, which will probably be soon after this. But regardless, I don't have a ton of time. Now, that sounds like a cop-out, but I have somewhat odd circumstances. I still live at home. Family's around. They're all trapped in the house all day. So when I come home, I'm like a guest visiting.
Right.
So I don't get a lot of free time because it's like, hey, let's all do something together. And which is, it's nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I don't want to act like I don't enjoy it. It's just, I do wish it was easier to be able to be like, no, I'll join you guys later. I'm going to do my thing.
I have to go watch End of Days.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go do my thing, but right over there. Like, I'll still be able to make eye contact with you while I'm doing my own.
Sure.
I'm sure I could walk downstairs, but you kind of get the point.
Yeah.
So on Sunday afternoon, I was like, nothing's going on. There's 2 minutes. I was like, okay, if I can get my foot inside the door of doing something, no one's going to give me a hard time. And they're welcome to join me. I don't care. So I sit down to watch a movie. There's no one in the room. Dominic was downstairs actually playing a video game. My dad was upstairs. My mom was taking a nap. My sister was on a Zoom call. So my brother comes inside. Hey, you want a drink? I'm making drinks. Okay, cool. I'll take a drink. What are you doing? You still playing the game? I'm about to watch this movie. You want to come join me? Sure. What is it? End of Days. Is that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? It is. Isn't that bad? Probably. Let's do it anyway. We're doing it for the show. Anthony wants to do it for the show. We don't exactly have anything new to watch, so why the hell not? Okay, I'll be there in a little bit. I'm going to make this drink. Okay, I won't start the movie then. Dad comes in. He's cooking dinner, having some roast beef, a few hours in the oven. What are you guys watching? We're about to watch End of Days. That Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? Yeah. I saw that when it came out. I don't really remember it that well. It wasn't very good. You want to watch with us? Yeah, I'll be ready in about 10
Oh my
minutes.
God, did this turn into a family affair?
So the three of us started watching the movie together. 45 minutes. A full 45 minutes after I planned on starting watching the movie.
Uh-huh.
We made it through half the movie. But as we were watching it, Dominic had questions, which, sparked some interesting conversation.
Sure.
Why this movie? So you see, Dominic, Terminator's in the early 80s. That was the first real Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Right?
Terminator's in the early 80s. Anthony's in the late 80s. Just go with it.
No. I said, Terminator, isn't even really a classic Schwarzenegger movie. It's a horror movie, really.
Mm-hmm.
Survival horror. And, I was like, it's funny because most of his movies weren't really conventional action movies, like in the way that, maybe a Chuck Norris or Jean-Claude Van Damme or whatever. I was like, there's always, something going on, right? Predator was, a classic action movie, but Alien, right? You have fucking weird throwbacks like Conan the Barbarian.
Sure. You
got Commando was really the only true blue action movie he was in for that whole rise of his fame in action movies, right? You always have something like he's on Mars and it's a sci-fi thriller. Right. You know what I mean? Right. You've got Terminator 2 is the closest thing to an action movie that he was actually in, right? Because it goes from horror to being more like an action movie.
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of the cop ones, like Raw Deal, Red Heat, those guys.
But those are the lesser known ones. Those aren't the ones that people know. Actually, I forgot about those movies. I've never seen them. I've heard of them. I've never seen them.
Pretty sure I have 2 of those in a trilogy VHS box set somewhere, but that's beside the point.
Well, fine. I was like, but the point was that, he had all these action movies that weren't really action movies, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then he went and did some really conventional stuff after, right? Commando was pretty late in the run, and then he did kids movies, Kindergarten Cop, Jingle All the Way, and he also had True Lies, which was again kind of you call it a true blue, action comedy, action with some comedy, and then I think he started to sense the star was fading because there's some wild swings. You have Eraser, which is trying to be a true blue action, but there's fucking lasers everywhere.
Yeah.
Then you got End of Days, Devil, The World Is Ending, weird religious undertones. Not just even undertones, overt religious stuff. The action and, mythology around religion. And then you have The Sixth Day. And, those were all... those 3 movies were in a 4-year span. It's he's just fucking swinging from the fences, hacking from his heels, and he's going to hit a home run or he's going to strike out.
There's a history behind that.
Okay. Do you have more? Because that basically was, to him that's what I was saying. Is look, you have to consider this is now the end of a 20-year run of box office dominance by him.
The weird history there is that after Mr. Freeze, Schwarzenegger had his heart surgery, and after he had his heart surgery, insurance companies wouldn't insure him to do movies.
Really?
Because they were worried about him and worried about the investment. Obviously.
Yeah, steroids will do that too.
So it took until End of Days before they finally tried and they got on set. They were watched him doing this, and then they were they found that it was okay, and then he just started. It seemed at that point, because he had that break of concern, that he started just grabbing everything that came his way, because the offer started rolling in, and then it was like one movie after the other.
Yeah.
Which is how it was when it, like, earlier on too. Like, it was one movie after the other, and then it was a break, and then one movie after another. But yeah, that's where I think that's where that came in, and that's when you start to get into like that weird space. Right? End of Days Plus is a weird space. That's
what I'm saying. Like, because you like even Eraser, which is like it seems like right before that curve, but that one already was still a little bit weird. Like maybe it hews a little closer to something like Total Recall, where it's conventional action with a weird sci-fi twist.
Running
Man, like, but like, then you have like End of Days, 6 Day, back-to-back years, 99, 2000 is like, these are big swings on like not high, but out there concept movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
we're also hitting that 99 through 2003 special effects era where things were just for the sake of special effects and weird.
Sure, but I'm just saying like the setup of these are way outside of the zone of most of the stuff that he did and that, that was most popular. Yeah, and it's like absolutely. It does feel like it's an aging star trying to hit one last home run.
Yeah. No, I agree. But man, this movie goes in some weird. But this movie has a straight up identity crisis. It's like we want to do a religious thriller horror movie, but also helicopters. I feel like that was the actual pitch meeting.
What's that?
That was the actual pitch meeting.
Well, it's not just that though, because it does feel like.
Sorry.
It does feel like this one. It never fully materialized from the storyboards, where it's like we have moments of like we're just gonna have him be. The Arnold, right? Like, he's just going to be a machine, and he's just going to kick ass and take names, and there's even some shades of Kindergarten Cop, like, where he's dead inside, and the opening scene of him on screen, he's trying to kill himself, and...
They did, like, a Mad Libs of all his other characters, and then they dropped that one into a religious thriller.
Yeah, but then, like, at the other hand, like, you have this whole, like, he's, like, crying and looking at, like, the music box thing, and it's like... And I'm even okay with that being your story arc, because I actually think...
I'm pretty sure that exact scene was in Batman and Robin.
But, like, I do feel like there was a wild show, like, tone shifts between, like, scenes where it's like... You have, like, I think it might have even been back-to-back scenes or close to it where Gabriel Byrne is, like, killing that skater kid with, like... The line I had from the opening, like, nice shirt.
Yeah.
And then, like, it might have been him crying right after that. And it's, like, just weird editing, man. And there's other weird editing things. There's other weird editing things that happen, like, intra-scene, let alone scene to scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a bizarre film. We're going to dive in now. It's time to dive in. I've broken my notes down into segments, and they're pretty chronological. So that'll help us get through... in some sort of a reasonable order, in Flix in a Six fashion. I'm sure we'll be jumping around. But
hopefully I'm done choking now. So.
But that being said, there's going to be spoilers from here on out. I'm not going to encourage you to go watch the movie. I do think what will end up happening is if you haven't... I think you can listen to the rest of this if you haven't seen it. We're going to spoil the shit out of it, but it doesn't matter. Because I think
it doesn't have a lot of things that, like, oh no, like, this was a huge twist.
But for the small cross-section that has not seen the movie and will get through this episode, I think we will have sold you on watching the movie, is what's going to happen. Because you're going to be like, I have to see that.
See, the thing is, unlike last week's, like, Wild Wild West good bad movie, this one wasn't, like, so bad where it's like, oh my god, this is the worst thing, and I have this litany of issues. Like, I have a handful of things where I'm like, really? Or, like, that's what you're going to do here? But overall, it just never moved the needle for me, good or bad.
Like, no, it's just there. It exists. Yeah, as your tweet length review said, it exists. I will say that I pulled out one piece of trivia. I didn't find the trivia for this movie to be particularly insightful or interesting, except for one that was just really, really huge for me. And that was that this was the last movie pressed to Laserdisc in the U.S. And I was like, man, there was a point where I was like, I wanted one of those.
What was the selling point of Laserdisc?
Sound?
Exactly.
I think it was sound. I think the sound was really good. Picture was a little better, and sound was supposed to be really good.
Because it had all of the laser reading of a disc that a DVD had, and even bigger and heavier than a record. So
yes, but it was available before DVD.
I know. I'm just saying, like, it wasn't super convenient because the discs.
No, I think they were like the size, like it was like a record box, like basically.
I don't know. I feel like I remember as a kid watching them, and they were roughly the size of a Trojan shield.
Oh my god, amazing! I do remember. Actually, I might have to call BS. No, I can't, obviously, because we just went through that history there. But I do remember seeing the ads for Batman and Robin on Laserdisc. I definitely wanted Batman and Robin on Laserdisc at one point.
Well, so that was before this, so
yeah, so it makes sense. It checks out.
Okay, yeah. That was what, 97, I think.
Yes, I believe so. Let's dive in. All right, and we're gonna start with the opening. And the reason we're starting here is because so far, for these old movies that we've been dipping back into, the music starts, and I go, I remember the next 40 minutes. And I don't know why. Like, I don't know like how it's so ingrained in me, but the music starts, I was like, it hit me. I was like kind of like humming along, which was weird for me because it's chanting.
Yeah. And also, like, really creepy chanting.
Very creepy. It starts off, and I'm like, I remember the next 40 minutes. More importantly, I remember the next 3 minutes of this because it's 3 minutes long.
The title sequence?
Yes. And in that title sequence, you have gargoyles, eclipses, snakes, fire, breaking glass on loop.
Yeah, and all those things are in the movie.
It's too much. And then it starts with a priest aggressively opening a very old scroll to the point where I'm like, maybe a little caution. Like he has this tin can that's clearly preserving the roll, and he has to rip it open. The reason he needs to rip this thing open is because he sees a comet, and he has to immediately tell Pope Hector Salamanca that the Eye of God.
There was a whole conversation that I can't really relay on air about Hector Salamanca. At the same time, well, about 2 minutes before where you're at, where credits are rolling. Hey, Mark Margolis is in this. My brother goes, who's Mark Margolis? I said, it's Hector Salamanca. And then there was a whole conversation ensuing from that that isn't necessarily going to be the best for the show. But it's funny that you mentioned that, because now I'm going to draw this back to Scrubs for you.
Sure.
The way he was doing that was so aggressively, where it's like, it was clearly a papal scholar emergency, papal scholar crisis.
Yeah.
And it reminded me, you're not there yet. It's around halfway through the show somewhere. They all get locked down. You remember SARS?
Yeah.
So, like, there's been a lot of talk about that lately, because I guess the corona pandemic has a lot of, like, similarities to that. Because it's a similar kind of disease, I guess. And so, during, like, the height of all that, or maybe shortly after the height of all that, there was an episode of Scrubs involving that, where they talked about how if anyone has, or anyone even suspects that someone has SARS, they have to lock down the whole hospital.
Okay.
And someone makes a joke in the same way that, like, in movies, you see someone make a joke about where, like, it's not like I have a bomb on, like, the airplane, and the airplane gets locked down. Yeah. And someone says that, like, oh, it's not like they've got SARS. And just saying the word SARS triggers a lockdown.
Yeah.
And, like, most of the main cast gets, memorably, Jordan does not get locked in the wing with them, because she slides under the door and reaches back for her hat in the way that Indiana Jones would, and they play the flourish as she's doing it. And, like, the lockdown happens, and most of them are in there, and they all get pissed at JD because he's the one who said SARS. And then there's this whole thing where he's dating this new girl, and he's trying to impress her, and there's nothing impressing happening because they're all just on lockdown, basically. And so he pays a homeless guy to fake, like, a heart attack so that he can, like, save his life and this and that. And he pays the guy, and then the guy wants more money, and he doesn't have any more cash. And so he's trying to get, I need the surgeon, over here. And then he rushes over. do you have $20 more? And he's like, shit, who else has money? And he goes, Dr. whatever his name is. And he's the, fuck, what the hell's the name? For like a skin doctor. You know what I mean? Like I forget what, like, there's a name for that. And
like a dermatologist?
What? Yeah, dermatologist. That's
okay.
I totally blanked on the name for that. I was like, the skin doctor,
Dermatologist.
I thought it was
a test, and I was like, well, this is weird. This is
no,
a weird
I'm
test
saying
now.
it to you because I just could not remember what it was called.
Okay.
And yeah, dermatologist, like, he's always got cash on him. Like, so they call him over, and he goes, oh my God, it's my moment. He goes, dermatological, like, emergency, as he's running over. There is no dermatological emergencies. He's like, he just wants to be a part of the action. And that's what it reminded me of. There's no scroll-related emergencies. He just really wanted to be a part of the action.
Then he, like, limps into the chambers where the Pope is, and to say this message, which it seems like he needs to kind of tell him in private, so he, like, kind of whispers, but really loud.
Into a room full of people?
Into a room full of people, yes. And then something wonderful happens. Then he's like, you have to go find her. And we're, of course, referring to a woman who's being born in New York at this very minute. At this very minute. Minute? At this very minute.
No. 6 hours later.
Sure. He has to go find her. And then he limps out of the room to never be seen again. Because he doesn't go there. And he doesn't appear again. Unless he's supposed to be the old priest later.
I assumed he was...
You can't,
wait for it.
And
I
that's
assumed
the
he
only
was...
thing you can do.
I assumed he was, wait for it, Father Thomas Aquinas. Which, when they said his name, I immediately... And we're talking about... This is like 10 minutes into the movie. 15 minutes into the movie. I threw my hands up. I was like, come on!
Yes.
We're doing that. That's what this movie is. And oh boy, was that what this movie was.
Yeah, 100% that's what it is. And I mean, yes, you can assume that if you'd like, but there's no evidence.
No. Well, how could there be? He cut his tongue out.
Right. But moments before the scene that he doesn't have a tongue? Maybe? It seems pretty fresh.
It seems like it's very well preserved.
Yeah.
It could be minutes, could be hours, maybe a day or two.
Yeah, on the list of things in jars in that room, a tongue, a picture of a girl. That's it. 2 jars.
Why did the picture have to be in a jar?
Don't know. Why did it have to be in the fridge? Why was there a cat in the fridge? Lots of questions, Al. Lots of questions.
You know what? Speaking of questions.
Hit me.
And maybe I'm just misremembering this because I watched the movie over the course of 2 days. So, when they get into Thomas Aquinas' apartment.
Mm-hmm. Apartment is that's a big sell.
When they get into Thomas Aquinas' hovel.
His underground lair.
They see a quote on the wall written in, I think they indicate that it's probably blood. Probably his tongue blood.
Yeah, I would assume so. I just assumed he used the tongue as a marker.
Yeah, that would be awkward. Anyway, they read the quote. They read it again. They kind of toss it around. What's that all about? It's very obvious it's a Bible verse because it's got the numbers 20:7 next to it. And anyone who's even heard of the Bible knows that that's the way that they denotate things in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And then they go to the refrigerator, and there's another quote, which they flash across the screen very quickly, and then never mention again.
Sure.
Do they ever mention it again?
I don't think so.
What the fuck?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to add to this list of questions, though, just because I'm going to jump back. This is great. This is exactly what I wanted to happen. This is because this movie is questions. Lots of them.
There's so many questions. Questions I have. Questions they have.
Here's another one. When Father Plays with Scrolls runs in, it takes a second, but then you come to realize that 3/4 of the conversation in that room happened in Italian.
Only 3/4?
Only 3/4. There's one particular character who is speaking English, and are they just afraid that you're not going to read all of it, so they're trying to keep you engaged? That's
what's the most important thing? We'll say that one in English.
Right, but it wasn't. He only asked a question, I'm pretty sure.
Was it, and I don't remember what the sentence was. Was it the most important thing, or was it the one thing that one creepy priest needed to hear so that he could then become bad guy priest later?
No, I think it was. I just think it was a question of like, what's going on. I think it was something along those lines.
Okay, because That
It
guy.
was like, what's going on? And then they said in Italian, you need to read subtitles. Like, and then they went back to it.
Because that guy only existed. Now, again, assuming, but this one I feel even more solid about the assumption that he's the cardinal who is betraying the edicts of.
I think it is him. Maybe it's just so that you recognize him later.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it has to be because he's the one who leads the Papal Knights or whatever the fuck they were calling them. Know. In direct opposition to
the Sacred Hearts Club band.
in direct opposition to the edicts of Pope Hector the First.
It's Pope Salamanca to you.
Well, usually
if I had a bell sound effect, I'd use it.
What?
If I had a bell sound effect right now, I'd be using it a lot.
Generally, Pope names need to be first names, which is why I chose Hector the First.
Sure, that's fair. I have one final question for the for the opening of this movie.
Okay.
For the opening, Al.
Why do we need to have multiple time jumps to 1979 to 6 hours later to 1999?
More importantly, I would like to focus on the 6 hours later when that mom gave birth to a 3-month-old.
That's not the first time or the last time that's happened in the movie.
That was a toddler.
It practically walked out.
Yeah. It was weird. And then, weird satanic ritual. And it's just like in this world where we're saying like these religious things, it feels like the ritual part of it maybe doesn't fit so much but I guess it does later on. I don't know. The cutting of a rattlesnake and then the suckling of that rattlesnake's blood off of the pinky of a creepy doctor it was just a whole weird thing. It's very uncomfortable.
Also, so the baby was born with an Omega tattoo.
Fact.
So why do they need the ritual after that if the baby has already been chosen?
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah.
If the baby was just born under that sign, which fine, okay, do the ritual. Maybe then we see the tattoo sprout up.
Sure.
To signify that this one has been marked. If it's already been marked, is the ritual necessary?
It's a good question. It's a great question. What was the ritual for? See, if I had any indication of what the ritual was for, then maybe I would be okay with this.
See, this is what I'm saying, because if the baby was born under the sign, and then they do the ritual, that's doing the marking, and then the marking comes up on the baby.
Mm-hmm.
But with the marking already there, the ritual feels superfluous. So that's just a rattlesnake that died for no reason.
Yeah, which was very readily available in New York City in the underground of a hospital.
Yeah, they had a whole 6 hours.
That's true.
That's true. To secure a rattlesnake from upstate New York and bring it to a hospital in.
You know what was really I was really hoping for, which they failed me on this one, which was good. There was a little bit of continuity on their part when they said you have to get there or you have to get her or find her, and then it said 6 hours later. I was like, please let him be there 6 hours later. Please let him have taken an 8.5-hour flight and get to a hospital in New York in 6 hours because this will be perfect.
Well, they never really told us what the prophecy was specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So I surely didn't expect it to be a child will be born somewhere in the 6 billion people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right now. And when I say right now, I mean maybe 6 hours from now.
Yeah.
Go find the child. Let me just tell you how math works. You can spend 20 years searching the entire globe, and you will not find probably even 1/3 of all the people who exist.
Wait a minute. Didn't they specifically send him to New York?
Did they? They specifically sent him to where? I have no idea.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember. Now, I the only way for me to know that is to rewatch the movie, so I guess it's something that I will never know. Now, yeah, that's okay. We're leaving the opening of this film behind.
It's funny. Before we leave, I just have one. It's not even about the opening.
Yeah,
you were super psyched to do this movie.
I'm still thrilled that we watched it.
It's weird that you're now like I can understand like I don't have any plans to watch it again anytime soon. It feels like you've nailed this into a coffin now.
Oh, Oh no. I won't remember these questions that I need answers to.
Fair.
But I'll watch it again. It's, at some point. I'm sure. I'm sure. On Laserdisc, preferably. I bet you that's like some sort of collector's item. The last one, the last Laserdisc.
I want the last Laserdisc of the last action hero.
Ooh. All right, so we leave the opening behind, and then disc jockeys will continue to hit us over the head with the fact that it's 1999 for the remainder of this film. Because they will shout it at you in the distance, on the radio that's not playing, in the car that no one's in. They will shout it at you for the rest of the movie. Things like, 3 more nights until every computer dies. And
also all of us.
And it was like, it's going to be the greatest party of all time. It's, if we die, at least we're having fun. There's a lot of pressure to party like it's 1999 in this movie.
I was like, do you remember how long party like it 1999 was a thing?
Yeah, I do. I also remember, like, I do remember that New Year's Eve at Mama and Pop-Ups. And it was, it was fun. We made confetti. We threw it around. It was a good time.
Yeah. Did we have the little crackers, the little ones that pop with a little bit of
100%
gunpowder?
The poppers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had those. It's great. It's a good time. Good time. I remember that. There was definitely like an underlying uncomfortable feeling of like, is something going to happen? You know? Because that was like what the news did at that time too. but anyway, yeah. So they're gonna beat you over the head with the fact that Y2K is a thing. The rest of the movie, which is, I mean,
wait, no, hang on a second. I think this movie was made long enough in advance that they never actually said Y2K, did they?
No, they did. It's on signs and stuff.
Oh, I don't remember hearing or seeing that specific phrase. Yeah, and I remember thinking at one point during the movie, I was like, was this before Y2K became what we all called it? Because the 1999 thing was a thing for over a year.
Right.
But I feel like Y2K specifically was like the last 3 to 6 months or whatever of that phenomenon.
Well, it was released November 24th.
Yeah, but who knows how long before that it was shot.
That's true, but those things do only appear in B-roll, so...
see, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere.
Because there's a shot of Times Square with a party and the signs up.
Okay.
So, it is, I guess they did something. Let's get us into the next segment of our movie, which I have titled Satan Arrives. And the note that I took down was, yes, the great New York earthquake of 1999. Where fire spewed from the manhole covers.
Also, was that just recycled footage from Volcano?
I mean, yes. I just assumed that we all knew that.
Volcano is a great mid-90s action.
Put Volcano on the list.
I'm totally okay to do it.
Do we do Volcano and Dante's Peak in one episode?
I never got through Dante's Peak. Because
boy.
I watched that movie when it came out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or let's call it when it first came to video. So I was 6 or 7 years old.
Sure.
Scared the crap out of me the first half hour of that movie. When it first started coming down and the fucking thing was ripping through people's cars and killing people. I don't know why it scared the crap out of me.
No, I remember being freaked out a little bit.
I never got that from Volcano though, for whatever reason. I love that movie. Now it's possible I saw it later that year.
I think it's just that Tommy Lee Jones made you feel safe.
That could be it too. Maybe Don Cheadle's beret.
Yeah, that could be it. It's most certainly one of those two things. Oh God, we have to do this now. It has to be done. But no, I remember being freaked out enough by Dante's Peak and not as much by Volcano.
Yeah, I don't think I never watched all of Dante's Peak, but Volcano, sure, some people would probably say it's a good bad movie. I challenge you. It is a good movie. Legitimately good movie.
Well, I'm down to rewatch those. So my next question has arrived. How did Translucent Hell Demon pick that famous actor?
He was also marked. They explained it later. Don't worry.
But they said that a lot. It was the guy in her dreams that she's constantly having sex with.
No. They didn't say it a lot. They said it one time.
Oh, it was just the one time.
Yeah. They said it to her later. He was chosen too, so don't worry about it. Shh.
You made a face when you saw him. Yeah, he's in that dream where he's in me all the time. Like, what is happening? But I never knew he was real. Jesus
Which fair enough. If you have a recurring dream of being fucked by some dude you've never met before, and then you see him for real, walking through fire, and also everyone you've ever known and loved is being murdered and dead and dying and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Also, you were almost brutally murdered, and also very, compassionately given last rites. It's great because we were watching that scene and
the raping of the last rites.
Yeah, no, and I was like, is she about to get raped here? Because there have been she was told in no uncertain terms whether she likes it or not, she's going to be fucked. And then we have a bunch of dudes grab her and hold her down on her bed, and I was like, oh, so here is where the fucking is going to happen. And then they pull out a knife, and I was like, okay, so rape and murder? Oh, no.
I also like
they're bringing out a Bible. It's like, how nice is that? They're going to kill her, but they're going to give her last rites before that.
Right.
That is super compassionate.
I also appreciate that for all of the people that are not familiar with the Bible or the last rites or the sacraments, they do pause to yell at the camera, I need more time to finish the last rites. Go downstairs. And it's like, sending somebody out of the room at this moment makes me think, maybe this isn't what it looks like.
Basil exposition. Knife edition.
Red knife edition. Okay, so here's a question. Spooky, clear hell demon, which is Satan, right?
It is the fallen angel.
All right, fallen angel.
Dark angel? Same.
With the 1999 clear effect turned on. Somehow
even worse than the effect that's going on behind your head right now. By the way, have we mentioned on the broadcast that...
We have not. This is just for you.
I feel like we should at least refer to the fact that you currently have your background awkwardly green screening the poster to End of Days behind you.
100%. Arnold Schwarzenegger has been the devil on my shoulder this entire episode.
He's been staring awkwardly over Anthony's head the whole time.
He's looking out for me.
Or
he makes me feel safe watching this movie, much like Tommy Lee Jones.
And Don Cheadle.
Oh, God. Okay, so he clearly swoops into a famous actor. Now, here's my question, and we may never know the answer to this. In that moment of possession, does the person die?
I mean, probably.
Did he kill that person?
First, before I answer that definitively, and I will say definitively no.
Oh.
But before that, I had a problem with this movie.
Really?
I don't know the rules.
A problem?
I
have a note here that just says, what are the rules?
Which makes me want to sing from that one season premiere of Always Sunny. What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules?
Yeah.
And so there's movies like this with mysticism or whatever, and you want to get a deep biblical mythology, whatever, like Satan and all that, angels and demons and all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of times where you don't know the rules.
Right.
But if that's going to be the case, consistently don't let me know the rules.
Right.
He's capable of anything. He's the devil. Okay, you know what? Fair enough. Or give me the rules and try and stick to them the best you can. And this one tries to have its cake and eat it too.
Sure.
Which really frustrates me because as soon as you start to indicate that there may be rules, I'm going to want to stick to those rules. And then you're going to break those rules, and then you're going to make me want to put my foot through the screen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of those things that are unexplained.
So anyway, why I said definitively no. Because if you remember, the very final scene of the movie, which was really frustrating for me to watch, Jericho gets possessed by the devil.
Of course.
And then he manages to re-overcome him just in time to kill himself.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't fuck her.
Right.
So, in closing, he's still alive.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, I got the impression that the other guy was actually dead.
Well, maybe because he was marked, whatever snake ritual and or a tattoo.
Mm.
Maybe that made him more susceptible to the possession, where he's subservient to this possession of the devil or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so here comes some more questions and more exploration. He then exits the bathroom and he aggressively kisses the woman that was at his table while grabbing her also aggressively. And only the other person at the table seems to be concerned.
Well, for one thing, it seemed pretty obvious that she was probably his wife or girlfriend.
Yes.
That being said, we don't know who those people were. We don't know who he is.
No, for sure.
Which is annoying.
He's a Wall Street guy. I'm pretty sure they call him Wall Street guy multiple times.
Didn't they call him... Sorry, wasn't it specifically... We have to take care of some Wall Street bigwig or something like that?
Yes, I believe.
Yeah, that is the only thing we know about him. Wall Street bigwig, which super descriptive. Better or worse name than Miss Lippin Reader?
But worse. But my. So here's what I'm getting at, though. Like the guy at the table is concerned, and we can make the mental leap that he and the woman that Satan is making out with are together in some fashion or another. But nobody else at the restaurant seems to be weirded out, and it goes on for a while.
And he does shout, right?
More importantly, she's not overly concerned. She's more interested. Now, here's a question of rules. Did he make her interested?
Or maybe she's just susceptible to the temptations of the devil.
Maybe it is. And
because that's a whole thing that happens later in the movie.
When he leaves the building and closes the door, the entire building explodes.
Yeah, so remember how I said I don't know what the rules are?
What are the rules?
Because we can juxtapose him walking out of the building and blowing it up with his mind with the fact that Jericho is able to grab him and throw him out a window.
Right.
And I just assumed he was going to float away on bat wings or something.
Well, let's not forget that he can also urinate gasoline.
Or was it antifreeze?
Antifreeze?
It looked green on the pavement. Maybe that was just a weird trick of the light on my screen, but
I think it might have been that.
Well, because that's flammable too. So
sure, yeah, I got the impression that it was gasoline.
I understand why you think that. I certainly I was jumping back and forth because it was certain scenes. I was like, is it green? Is he pissing antifreeze or is it gasoline? I was like, either way, it's going to be flammable, and he's clearly creating a path to light that on fire. I
really want it to be that the devil was pissing antifreeze.
Right?
I really want that to be what it is. Can we definitively state that that's what happened in that scene?
I would say maybe that's what it was for me. Is I wanted it to be that too because it's kind of an exotic material, like gasoline. Okay, sure, whatever. Antifreeze though.
We are jumping a little bit ahead, but I want to stay here for a second with the antifreeze piss and the explosion of the van. The one thing that they did do right is what's his name? Is it God damn? What's that actor's name?
Kevin Pollak.
Pollak. What? Kevin?
Yes.
Kevin Pollak. When he steps out of the van, which is just enough doubt to reintroduce him later, which I thought was a very good move for continuity, except for maybe the size of the explosion.
And also the fact that he's clearly engulfed by fire.
Yeah. Oh, you know what we do a lot of in this movie? We do a lot of close-ups of the stunt double in fire where you could really see all that Vaseline. You know what I mean?
I didn't know actually notice that.
They do that a lot. It's fun.
You know what else we do a lot of? Is we kill off a character and then just happen to decide later, we're not quite done with it.
Not yet. Yeah. Not like this.
Because that's 100% what happened to that character. Because based on the scene we watched, which, by the way, don't even have to worry about an unreliable narrator because Jericho's not watching that happen.
Right.
Because if that was the case, I could totally understand. Because then you're fucking with his head, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's just us.
Yep.
The way the scene is shot, he clearly dies.
Right.
And then he's back. So as soon as he knocked on the door, I'm like...
Yeah.
As soon as he knocked on the door, I'm like, okay, he's the devil. Which is where Jericho goes right away because, he should.
Sure.
But they clearly at that point had
decided. Also gives him 30-second Arnold Schwarzenegger side-eye where he's not 100% sure that he's convinced that it's him, but then tells him all the plans anyway.
Yeah, which was...
Yeah. That was weird.
Even in that, I was like, so the devil can't walk into a church. And then he walks into a church.
No. They said the devil can't see into the church.
So then how can he walk into it? Wouldn't he be like
He
crashing
can
into
walk
the walls
into it.
on the side?
He can't see into it from outside.
Now, when you say walk into it, you mean like he's going to crash into the wall because he can't see into it, or?
No. This is the only one that didn't bother me, because I feel like there was a handful of times where they were just like, unnecessary exposition. It was like, devil can't see inside from outside.
Well, see, you say that, but then they did another unnecessary exposition, because at about 3 seconds after I said, how is he walking into the church? He goes, I can walk into the church. It only hurts a little bit. And I was like, you know what? Fucking fair enough.
Good enough. Let's backtrack for a minute, because after Satan's arrival, we got a couple of 90s one-liners / shticks that I really, really liked. And I'm only going to go over 2 of them right now. Others might arrive as we go through the rest of the movie. But the first one is the relationship between the 2 cops, Arnold and Pollock.
They're not cops.
It's funny, it's classic. It's very similar to Arnold and what's his face in True Lies, whose name is escaping me.
Tom Arnold.
Where it might as well just have been him again.
And very reminiscent of Kevin Pollak and everyone else who's been the leading man in a movie that Kevin Pollak's been in.
100%. And he has a line of, you want some of this? There's enough caffeine in it to kill an elephant. And I was like, there are just certain lines that live and died in the 90s.
And that's one of them.
And then you know what else? What really, making something fucked up in a blender, also very 90s.
Well, the great part about that was one day earlier, me and my brother were watching the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. And one of the offensive linemen who was drafted that day, Ben Barsh, he detailed the shake that he takes to gain weight when he's like doing his off-season workout to like stay really strong and everything like that.
Uh-huh.
It's the most revolting thing I've ever seen. So I'm not going to remember the ratios, and I maybe not even remember 100% of what goes into it, but
sure.
Eggs, which, common, but in this case, I believe they were already cooked and scrambled. Mm. Peanut butter, mm-hmm. Bananas, mm-hmm. which those are pretty standard. Gatorade, grits, cooked grits. The sounds coming out of you are...
It's just like I feel the scratchiness in my throat while drinking the shake.
Yeah, no,
I haven't put a flavor profile to it yet.
It sounds god-awful, and they showed a video of him with a reporter at the NFL Combine, in which they made this poor girl make the shake with him and then drink it. Mm. And they talked about the texture a pretty decent amount in that, too. And she was a champ. She took it down. I would have fucking thrown up.
What else?
Oh, no, that was it, I think.
Okay.
I think
that's enough.
Eggs, grits, peanut butter, Gatorade. There might have been like yogurt or something in there as well.
That's disgusting.
No, it sure is.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's nothing compared to his shake of Pepto-Bismol, pizza, lo mein, and protein powder.
I believe so, but you're forgetting that
vodka.
Yes, but you're also forgetting that it was cold, probably 18 hours old off the floor pizza.
All right, floor pizza, of course. I can't forget that it's floor pizza. And then the classic, let me smell the Chinese food to make sure that it's okay. Make the face implying that it's not, and then eat it anyway.
And without even like the thin veil to hide behind of, I microwaved it for 30 seconds. I probably killed most of what's growing on it.
Sure. No, that's...
It went into a shake.
Oh, and then he picked it up, took a swig of it, said most important meal of the day, and offered some to his partner. Yeah, it was horrible. That was dumb. That was real dumb. And just a complete unnecessary maybe 15 minutes of the movie. Or maybe I just remember it being 15 minutes.
No, it wasn't that egregious. It was probably like 8.
All right, so then we get into action movie part 1, where a few more questions arrive. That priest is a hell of a shot.
Yeah.
He shot Arnold square in the chest with a sniper rifle. And for being just like this crazy old drunk priest, tongueless, it's impressive. It was impressive. And then I wasn't certain, like, again, is this the guy from the Vatican? Maybe. Is it Sir Scrolls-a-Lot? I don't know.
Sir Scrolls-a-Lot.
Maybe.
Is it Sir Scrolls-a-Lot? I don't know. Is it Father Thomas Aquinas? It will always be Father Thomas Aquinas.
Also in the scene, we get just the... I think it's the only sequence of scenes where Arnold is wearing a trench coat.
Yeah.
Specifically for the effect of it flapping in the wind while he does cool things.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the only reason he's wearing a trench coat. Cool things like getting onto a helicopter that is lowering into the middle of an intersection in New York City.
Yeah.
So
Which you would think you would need a permit for.
Sure. To be followed up by can't land on that roof because there's too much crap on it. But I can pick you up on the street level.
In the middle of Wall Street.
You know what's really amazing about this entire sequence of the whole gunshot, the Arnold chasing him through, like, we're supposed to get this vibe that he's, like, really good at this job, I guess, because he spotted the window that's open, and the guy is shooting, like, the window's clear. No, you're wrong. Like, why? Like, the amount of time that it took him to say that, he could have told them where the guy was. That bothered me. But what really got me, what I really enjoyed about this was clearly the first action sequence that he shot in a long time, because the smile that's on his face when the camera is not zoomed in on him is tremendous. He is having so much fun. Now, there is a scene in this movie where he lures down from the helicopter on a rope, on a harness, and is pseudo flying through the air.
He Mary Poppins it for sure.
Catches the priest by the hood of his jacket
and lifts him.
Up, correct.
And by the way, I think the hood of that jacket, you said, that jacket wasn't zipped.
No, absolutely not. And then the guy shoots at him a couple times, which of course naturally causes him to unwind further and more rapidly down the rope for no reason.
None at all.
Until we drop him through the top of a theater sign, just because we're in New York, and that's a thing that you do in an action movie that takes place in New York. Then it really dawned on me is when he lowers down all the way to the ground, the rope is so perfectly straight that he's like obviously on a crane and not a helicopter. And I don't know why, but of all of the ridiculous nonsense that goes down in that sequence, that's the one that bothered me.
Yeah, I didn't notice that one.
It just really bothered. It was like perfectly straight down, and he had plenty of time to unhook it, and the rope's not even like wiggling. It's just straight.
See, what bothered me was how slow the transitions were in a high-speed chase.
Yeah.
There's a lot of establishing shots that are followed by like setup shots, but before the tracking shot or establishing shot was also them setting up. So like it's like every part of it is exactly how it would be after you like get ready to skydive or something like that. Like, let's check the parachute for the 37th time. It's like, let's make sure that we've got everyone set up properly. We're going to go and get jumping out of this like helicopter. And then we're going to have an establishing shot, like a tracking shot, like panning around the helicopter. And then we're also going to set up again the fact that he's about to jump out of this helicopter. Right. And I'm like, so like he's escaped by now, right? Like he is gone.
100%, he's gone. Yeah, he zipped right out of there. There's no way they catch. No, they don't know where he is now. He's gone now because you took 20 minutes to land on top of the cars with the helicopter and then go back up. He's gone.
Oh, 100%.
Now,
and yet somehow he's only gone like 50 feet.
We're probably going to breeze through the next section because we talked a little bit about it already, but what I have dubbed Horror Movie Part 2. And that's where we got it. That's where we went into Thomas Aquinas' underground lair with the picture in the pickle jar in the fridge. We got the reveal that the psychiatrist and the stepmother of Christine are the people that were doing the ritual in the opening. That was actually a pretty cool thriller thing that they did.
Wait, Christine? Do you mean Christ New York?
Christ, maybe it's Christ in New York.
I was so mad. Like, the Thomas Aquinas thing was bad enough, and then they started doing that, and I was literally, like, stomping my foot on the couch. On the ground. I was like, come on.
No!
Yeah, basically.
The most important... Well, that's actually... That brings me to my next section, which was, where in the world is Christine York? And the answer is, here. Right here, on this computer, with this address, because she is the one person named Christine York. And we know exactly where she is. That drove me up a wall. Up a wall. It was also about this point where we get into the house and like all the shit goes down, where I realize Arnold Schwarzenegger is not so much an actor as much as he is a genre. And that it became very
is
clear
his own genre.
Yeah, exactly. The genre of Schwarzenegger. One thing that also got to me, I was curious about, stepping back for a second to Horror Movie Part 2, where he kills the kid with the "Hey kid" whisper, and then Chris hits him with a bus. That in that scene, I was like, and a couple more that follow, I was like, it feels like, no offense against the guy playing Satan, he's a good actor, but it feels like he's doing his best Willem Dafoe. To which I pose the question, would Willem Dafoe raise this movie to like a 7 or 8?
Oh, so we're doing the whole Willem Dafoe, Gabriel Byrne thing in the same way that we did Hammer Cavill.
Right. Which I think is valid.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think Gabriel Byrne is, in general, a pretty decent actor. I think the problem is, like I said, this movie wastes his and my time.
Sure. But would it have wasted Willem Dafoe's time?
Willem Dafoe's all about the work.
Yeah. It was a firefight.
That being said, while I know he's picked a lot of indie movies, he's also done a lot of movie like this, I think, to fund his time in between. So, probably not a waste of his time.
No, I want to see that cut. Questions about the whole Christine York situation. We did the last rides, all that shit. Arnold's in the house.
For one, it's really confusing how the doctor and nurse were able to inject themselves into her life. I'm really confused about that.
Maybe that had to do with rattlesnake blood. Is that how you do that? I think that's how you do that.
Once you've marked an already marked child with rattlesnake blood, you can just be in their life and it's not an issue.
That's right.
Also, how did that guy go from, like, I'm just confused as to how he became her therapist when he was just some doctor in that hospital or whatever.
I would assume that he's faking it.
I guess so.
And maybe she's adopted by the woman before going to the psychiatrist.
That's a good point. And then, like, the fake mother is just like, "Oh, hey, here's the psychiatrist," without like anyone know. I don't know. It's
exactly.
Wild.
Hey, let's jump ahead to one of the rules. Why is she super strong though?
Well, I assumed in that moment it's because she's like given herself, like, it was, because they said the whole thing about, like, only like the warrior who is like, like steeped in his faith of God and everything can defeat the devil. I think, vice versa. She was his champion or whatever.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because it's only in that one. It's only in that one scene that it happens. Where like, sure. I feel like it was like, Lord, give me strength type of thing.
Mm-hmm. But the retractable claws.
Well, I mean, she moonlights as Wolverine.
Got it. Okay. No further questions.
Objection retracted.
I mean, let me go through these notes real quick and check this one off. Why is stepmommy super strong? The devil punched that man's head into oblivion. That was a fun scene.
I was not expecting that at all. So that was after he fucked his wife and daughter and also absorbed one of them?
Yeah, that scene made me uncomfortable. And it wasn't just the weird sex, it was the merging of human beings.
I was a little confused as to what was going on. See, what I assumed was happening was, like, he was trying to come into his power and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna fuck this daughter and this wife, and I'm just gonna absorb both of them," or something like that, and like make myself more powerful and young and beautiful and all that sort of stuff. Because we've seen that. Mm-hmm. That's a tale as old as time. But instead,
as old as rhyme.
Instead, the mother and the daughter they became one for reasons undetermined as of yet.
Right. Also, was a dream, maybe not. Hard to say.
Well, real life, but also Christ in New York's dream.
Right.
So
right, and then you also, of course, we get she cuts the apple. There's maggots in the apple. Arnold can see the apple because reasons.
No, that one actually I was willing to give it because he was grabbing her hand and the apple, so like he was within her like sphere of influence.
He was connected. Got it. Here's a question for you.
Because as soon as he pulls the apple out of her hand, it's a normal apple again.
Oh, that's true. All right. Well, I'll let that one slip. why did he choose to pick that one book to steal from the house?
Which book was it?
It was clearly not important what book it was because they don't tell us. He reads something in it that he learns about these knights, I think, that are going to try to kill her.
Oh, was that what it was? I don't even remember that happening. I might have been looking at my phone.
All I know is that he takes a giant book and then not so subtly sneaks out of the house with it.
Oh, it was the book of symbology so that he would know what the... so he would know who it was.
So that he could be the expert in nameology.
Exactly.
Of course. Of course. Also, another thing. So earlier on, when we were running through the city, I mentioned that if you really pay attention, Arnold has just this shit-eating grin on his face. He's so excited to be in an action movie again. The rest of the movie, if you pay attention to his face, utterly confused the entire time. He just has this look of shock on his face. It's wonderful. Those cops.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy, do I have problems with them.
Hit me.
What's up?
Hit me, because I have, were they in on it? Were they influenced? Were they possessed? What are the rules?
I think a little bit of all of those, because, so he goes to the hospital, right? The devil, and that cop is there, and he whispers basically that he's going to reveal his secret about being a pedophile, leveraging him, hey, I'm the devil. Okay, fair enough, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we never see that cop and CCH Pounder interact, do we?
No.
But now they're best friends, and also they're shooting up the place, and also they're Satanists now. It's like, what? Where the fuck did that come from?
Well, wait, so hang on. He kills the two cops, and then he raises one of them from the dead.
Yeah, I was talking about right before that.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, good point, because they were obviously in on it before that part.
Yeah.
Right.
But we never had any indication. Confusing. I mean, listen, we knew that the pedophile cop was because, the devil calling out to him spoke to his soul or lack thereof. Okay, fair enough. We could expect that maybe he could, come up at one point or other and help the devil out. But when did we establish that CCH Pounder was? There was no intimation. There's no hinting.
It's just how it is now. This is just how it is now.
And when did they meet, the two of them?
It's a good question. The next set of notes are my favorite set of notes. Okay, you ready for this? It is titled Light Exposition.
Oh, not full-blown Basil exposition?
No.
Not like the priest explaining everything?
In which we make a forced Number of the Beast reference.
Oh my
God.
God.
Because we don't know how else to do it.
When they were doing that, I was like, oh, we're going to get into the whole, I don't know why, because they never even get into that whole thing. But I immediately thought of the number 23, remember that terrible Jim Carrey movie?
I never saw it, but I do want to see it.
And I remember, I think it was in one of the trailers too, where they were like, the number 23, because 2 divided by 3 is 0.66666.
Yeah,
666 is the number of the beast. And I was like, that's not how math works.
My favorite part about this though is
that it calls back to Wild Wild West last week.
That's part of it. Is when he goes, do you ever see any numbers? And it's 666, the number of the beast. 666. But in dreams, numbers often appear upside down, and it's like, do they? Is this an established rule that I'm just completely unaware of? They're telling me in this. We ask, what are the rules over and over again? In this situation, that's the rule. He's telling us that that's the rule, and also that 666 upside down is 999, and then he goes, as in 1999, which I'm like, no, not the same number.
Well, the thing is, and that's one of those cases of the left hand not knowing what the right's doing, because later in the movie, so when they have the passage from the Bible, which was meant to be from, I guess, St. John's Revelations, right? They have the whole thing about he's 1,000 years of imprisonment are over, he's been loosed on the world or whatever. And I guess this is a every 1,000 years prophecy. And they mentioned that this has happened before 1,000 years ago. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. So in the year 999, this happened. And then in the year 1999, we're going to do it again.
Okay.
Fair enough. Maybe lead with that.
Right.
Or, follow up the fact that the 999, meaning 1999, following the 1,000 years since this last happened in 999, Okay, I'm there with you.
But 999 plus 999.
No, it's been 1,000 years since 999.
Okay. All right.
But the point is, this one sentence.
Fine.
If we're going to do light exposition, we can do some light to medium exposition.
All right.
Just give me the one extra sentence.
And now we get into Arnold Schwarzenegger always has to be a comedian. Right? So I wrote this line down because I rewound it to get it just right. Where he says, so the Prince of Darkness wants to conquer the Earth, but has to wait until an hour before New Year's Eve. This is Eastern time?
That was actually a good line.
That hurt.
No, I actually like that line. That was somehow in a movie full of cheesy fucking lines and cheesy fucking scenes. That was like the only good.
But it was great. It's great because he's calling bullshit on the whole thing because that's how he feels about it all. It did make it funny, but I was just like, this is great, and it's too much all at the same time.
It's a super cheesy line, but yet compared to all the other cheesy lines, it makes it feel like it was actually a good comedic line.
Then I think I started to trail off. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I don't know if I was being talked to or if I got some water. Yeah,
kind of like me 5 minutes ago where I fell asleep mid-sentence.
So
my own sentence. I'm dead serious. I'm pretty sure I fell asleep. I don't remember what we were talking about. I don't remember where I was going with that. The word blue came out of my mouth. I don't know why.
It was not right.
It didn't have anything to do with what was coming before that. I don't remember what was coming before that.
I'm just keeping an eye on you in case something happens. But, so like I said, I trailed off for a few minutes here. Until I sat back down and I had headphones on, so I was able to walk away, fill up my water. So I was like listening to the movie as it was going on for this 2 to 5 minute span. And I sit back down and I looked at my phone real quick, and the line was, "You'll be safer with me." This is when he's in the Arnold is with the priest and Christine, and they're in the whatever weird lair in the downstairs of the church with all the computers is. You know how churches have that lair with the computers?
Yeah, all the computers and the stigmata.
When they're in there, and they're like, we'll keep her safe, and then he says, "Arnold, you'll be safer with me. At least I can fight this guy with something real." And like I said, my eyes were not directly at the screen. I had to rewind it because in that scene, he grabs his gun. He says, at least I can fight this guy with something real. And he aggressively grabs his gun. Out of my peripheral vision, it looked like he was grabbing something else. And I was like, what did this movie turn into?
Could you imagine? I mean, because that's been a thing that's happened in movies a bunch of times.
Of course.
Could you imagine, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger could never do that sort of swagger where he grabs his junk.
Yeah.
Referentially.
Yeah.
Threateningly.
That would have been it maybe might have bumped this up to like an 8 or a 9 film.
I got it. I got it now.
What do you got?
The devil was most assuredly going to fuck Christine.
Sure.
And now Jericho's going to fuck the devil.
With something real.
Right? He grabs his crotch like menacingly and said, Jesus Christ. I can fight him with something real. It's like, oh, no, he's going to fuck him back. Got it.
All right.
By the way, I decided to tone it down ever so slightly, the intro, and go with Nice Shirt Kid, because my original line was going to be, got a whole new definition to Devil's Threesome.
Nice. Nice. The next phase of notes here is the one-on-one time. And that's when we get Arnold in his apartment with Satan. A couple of issues. First, after trying to convince him that Satan convincing Arnold that he'll give him whatever he wants, like give him his family back, all that stuff, and Arnold is resisting, we get a flashback to these gangsters coming into the house, taking his wife and daughter into the bedroom, and killing them. There's 2 sounds of a gun going off, and then that's it. And then we go into that room, and there is blood everywhere. I mean, everywhere. And it was 2 gunshots.
Yeah, they shot them with hand grenades.
I was very I was so distracted in that scene. I was like, but why is there blood on the ceiling? Why is there blood over there on that mirror?
You know how
why is this entire little jewelry box covered in blood?
You know how sometimes when you're playing, like, you know, a throwback to N64 GoldenEye, you can set like those mods where like people's heads explode?
Sure. That's what happened?
Yeah, why not?
All right, it was like when the devil punched that guy in the face earlier in the movie.
Again, that was pretty cool.
It was a pretty intense scene.
I did not see it coming that like that.
This line delivery, I laughed out loud because it was like this. I basically Satan became Willem Dafoe to deliver this line, and it was perfect because the cadence, just the way that he says it, the tonality in his voice, it's very perfect. He says he's talking to Jericho, Satan, and he goes talking about specifically when the wife and kid were killed. Where was God? He could have stopped it, but he didn't. He fucked you. And I was like, what was it? The way that line is delivered so fast. I was like, what did he just say?
There's a lot of that going around. Also, I don't understand, like, during that whole sequence, I'm pretty sure his Irish accent starts peeking out and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then I don't understand the follow-up to that where Arnold aggressively points his finger at him as he walks towards him and says, "You're a fucking choir boy compared to me," which is another great line.
It reminded me of Jimmy's rant from a couple weeks ago when, lightning bolts come flying from my fingertips.
Yeah. Yep. We also obviously get Arnold hanging out of a window and his hands being stepped on while he makes that weird Arnold noise. Which is in every single Schwarzenegger film. He's always hanging on the edge of something while somebody is stepping on his hand.
Well, the best version of that sound's got to be from Total Recall, right?
Sure, of course. I mean, that is the classic. Let's move on to the finale, shall we? We've spent a decent amount of time in here. We could breeze through some of this. The finale notes, which I have said, is obviously party like it's 1999. Another one of my favorite scenes. Satan's in the church. Okay? He kills all the priests, except for one. And then he says, "And with your last breath, you shall bear witness to the end of days." And then he just snaps his neck. And I'm like, you just said that with his last breath, he's going to bear witness to the end of days. And then you ended him before you did it.
More like out of his days.
Killing me.
Right?
Killing me. Here's another.
I was going to say, I have a couple of notes from the finale, too.
Sure. But just one thing, because that follows right up that with the fight in the alleyway, because you're going to like this one. I hope you caught it when you watched the movie. I'm not sure that you did. There's a wonderful sound effect of 2 punches, but 1 punch is thrown. And it is so jarring.
I did not notice that, no.
Anyway, go on. What were you going to say?
In the alleyway, which one was that?
They're in the alley, and like a whole bunch of Satan hooligans are beating up on Jericho.
Oh, yeah. And he crucifies him.
There's a single, very aggressive, very front and center of the screen punch. Hand is swung as it connects. Boom, boom. And I'm like, that's weird.
I totally forgot that they literally crucified Jericho. I forget. How did he get back down?
The old priest that could barely walk got him down.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Not off screen, though. Naturally.
Yes, totally off screen. That's right.
Don't need to waste time on that.
Irrelevant. I mean, we get it.
He saw him and he's like, "What are you doing up there, you crazy son of a bitch?"
There is some really terrible editing in the very end of this. It kind of, again, calls back to mind, like, the idea of, like, Thor when they ran out of money and they're shooting it on a backlot. Mm-hmm. Then they're on the train. They're having the whole shootout on the train. There are some of those, like there's cuts in that are the worst fucking editing I've ever seen. And I don't usually notice those things specifically, but there's he keeps punching through the train.
Yeah.
And there's, he's taught Christ in New York how to shoot. Yeah. And they're cut to a close up of a fist coming through the wall or the floor. And then they cut back and then they somehow cut again to the exact same thing. And someone is shooting. And I'm not even sure they're facing in the right direction 100%.
Right. Yeah. And it's all jacked up.
It's really, really bad.
Mm-hmm. It's terrible. So was the movie.
Keep going with what you're
sure.
going with.
When we're on the train, and he decides that we have to separate the train cars. Why?
I also wondered that.
Okay, so it's not just me.
It also, again, went to the whole idea of, the rules, because...
What are they?
Yeah, because, he's invincible, but also maybe if you hit him with a grenade, he's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any silver bullet, though you'd think that maybe one doused in holy water would do some good. But again, he can walk into church because he says he can.
Right.
And also he can blow things up and light them on fire. And also create an army of minions out of nowhere. And that was, I think, what I was getting at before when I was falling asleep mid-sentence, where...
Blue guys!
Yeah, blue guys or whatever I was saying. The word blue came out. I'm still very confused by this. I still don't know when they established that they got CCH Pounder onto their team. Though, of course, he then raises her from the dead.
Sure.
Quite obviously. Mm-hmm. But then he has whole hosts of people at his disposal. And so is it just a general bad people are coming along with my plan because I'm their master? Because, like, we did get that. Like, he did say that. What's that?
Satan worshippers?
Well, because he said, well, but how many active Satan worshippers can there really be? Even in New York City. Like, I mean, like, how many really can there be in that one area? And, like, we got a little, like, intimation as to what was going on, right? When he whispers in the pedophile's ear and says, you know, don't forget who you serve. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, you know, I guess people who are really bad, we're gonna say that they're active, like, servants of Satan because, like, they've like sold their soul or whatever. Like, okay, I guess I could kind of get behind, like, the morals of that, like, that we're moralizing a little and saying, oh, you know, the really worst of the sinners, they serve me whether they realize it or not. They just need to be reminded. Like, okay, I could work with that a little bit. I got something cool. I'm not entirely sure where we got with that with her. There's never any inclination that was shown that she was doing that. She seemed to be an earnest cop when we first saw her, the first several seasons we saw her. And then there's just hosts of people following. Is it one of those things where it's like the more power he gets, like more people just like flock to him? Is he like working some sort of... Can we get him, like, maybe, like, calling out, you know, my minions?
Maybe it's like a Hocus Pocus vibe, where he's like, come, little children.
See,
if they had that scene, I'd be all about it.
I was just thinking that as well as I was going through this, but I decided to hold it in reserve, because I have another Hocus Pocus reference for the very end of the movie.
Oh, boy.
so while we're at it, I can jump to that, because we can circle back around to where you...
So right before we get there, though, actually, because I have something that leads right up to that, and that is that we need to pay close attention that in a span of, I believe it's like, I don't know, 5 minutes, we do 2 time jumps, 6:47 p.m., 8:47 p.m. Why? I don't know.
You know.
Go on.
Yeah. What's that?
It's go on. I wanted to know the other Hocus Pocus.
Oh, so yeah, getting into my other Hocus Pocus point. We get to the very end, in which they maybe defeated him, maybe not. I'm still unclear if the bullets are doing anything. Mm-hmm. It seems like they don't, but now they are, for reasons.
Sure.
And then, like, earthquakes and stuff are happening, and he gets possessed.
Right.
Though we didn't really see, like, that happen or coming or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, the demon flew in and went right into him.
Yeah, it's just, like, out of nowhere, kind of, at that point. Like, we didn't even get, like, a moment where he's, like, decided, like, well, if I can't beat him, I'll join him type of thing. It's just, that's what we're doing now.
I feel like it was because the that body was, like, completely disheveled and destroyed.
Well, no, sure. I just mean, like, why he...
You are making me defend parts of this movie, and that is rude.
No, I'm confused as to why he's susceptible all of a sudden. He wasn't chosen. In fact, he was chosen to be the opposite. He was chosen to be the defender.
Sure.
So why is he now susceptible to possession? Why didn't he just do that to begin with? Like, he tried to persuade him to join him, right? Mm-hmm. With that whole montage of things we're going to show him a different life he could have had. But, like, why is he now possessible? Why didn't he just do that to begin with? Like, hey, you know what? This guy's the only one in my way. I'll just possess him. I'll know the things I need to know, like what church she's in, and then it'll be done, and I'll fuck her. Instead, we go through that whole rigmarole.
Sure.
And so Jericho fights the temptation. He kills himself, which I'm sure we're supposed to feel sad in that moment, and I felt nothing. And then he gets to see he dies, gets to see the ghosts of his wife and daughter, and go join them as she's, like, crying and watching them. And I was thinking of the end of Hocus Pocus when Binks, like, gives up his life to help them.
Yeah.
And then he sees his little sister there.
Yeah. One of those scenes is actually moving.
Right?
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's as you when you got finally to him jumping on the sword, I was like, oh, I see where he's going.
But then they follow through and they show the ghosts, and I was like, so now we're just ripping off Hocus Pocus. Okay.
Yep. Can we talk one thing about that final scene of him jumping onto the sword that I so vividly remember from back in the day seeing the movie was, even as a kid watching this movie, I was like, that's a weird length for him to jump.
Oh yeah, it was
where he's like
epic swan dive.
There's no reason to use a wire in that scene, but they do it, and he jumps a far distance.
Yeah, he travels a good 20 feet.
Yeah, it's and like magnetizes to the sword, and then and then.
Could you imagine if he kind of missed and he just like punctured a little bit here, like around the kidney?
Oh my god! Well, here's the thing, though. At that point, you're supposed to assume that it's like something along the lines of, I guess, like that he didn't kill Satan or anything like that. He just bought enough time that midnight struck. That's really all that happened.
So and Hocus Pocus,
and they don't even exactly Hocus Pocus again. But they don't even show you that the time has come. You just know that it was that about 3 minutes ago. It said 11:57.
Yeah, and we saw the ball drop.
Right, but that's it. It doesn't show you that like at that it should have been like ding, and then he should have turned into fire and come flying out of him.
Or can we get like split screens of the ball hitting the bottom?
Oh, that could have been awesome. One last piece of that though is I love that after that happens, we don't spend any time with the aftermath. Like we've just established the devil is real, and he won't be back again.
For 1,000 years.
Or for at least 999 years, whatever. And I was like, that's ridiculous. And then one more piece of IMDb trivia came into play. And
nice.
There was an alternate ending.
What?
Where Jericho impales himself on the statue of the angel and is believed to be dead, but then opens his eyes and pushes himself off the sword. His wound is miraculously healed, and then he and Christine walk out of the church.
Why? What are the rules?
But do you know why I want that scene?
Why?
That sword was 15 feet long. I want the scene where he is doing a push-up to get off of the 15-foot sword.
Help me!
And just the whole time going, ah! Oh my god. That movie was a disaster and a treat. But, oh man. I'm done. Are you done?
Yeah.
All right. That was good, Al. Thanks for doing this movie with me.
It's okay. It was certainly an experience.
It was worth it just to do this 3-hour session with you. That's all for this week's episode of Flix in a Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to discuss or nuggets for us to... Nope. No, that's not what I say. If you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixinasix@spintune.com or tweet us at the Spintune. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanza.
And I'm falling asleep.
Thanks for coming out.